My boyfriend lost all of our savings after he made a really dumb investment, as he kept this information from me for months, all while I was looking for a home with money I thought we had. And now I am seriously considering leaving him because I feel completely betrayed, and at this point I just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so basically, as the title says, my boyfriend blew all of our money on something really dumb, even though we've been together for 6 years and I have a 4-year-old kid. Okay, so technically we got the money in the first place because of me, but because his name was on some papers and not mine, it was given to him. Now, we agreed that the money was not to be touched at all. We need to move and that's what it would be used for. And you know what? I trusted him. At some point between when we got it and now, he supposedly invested all of it. And this was like months ago. There were like thousands of dollars gone. And he didn't say a word to me about it until now. He got hurt at work and hasn't really been working. We have a lot that we need to do in order to move. And I felt like he was just uninterested in trying to do anything. But I told him that if that's the case, we could just work on ourselves. He then gave me a sob story where he slipped in that he didn't have the money anymore. And once I realized what he said, I stopped him and I asked why he never said anything before. And he just said he didn't know how to bring it up. I'm actively searching for places thinking that we have a good start of funds, especially since he's not working right now. But I had no idea the money was gone. He has no backup plan and is still gambling money away after many conversations. And I truly just don't think that he cares about anyone other than himself. He was supposed to be covering rent, but guess what? He hasn't since before he got hurt. So a few weeks ago, he asked me to pay like 3 months of back rent. And I did it only because I thought that we had that money. And by the way, paying for that really messed up a lot of what I was working on. And right now, I just don't think that he understands or even cares. He can't see this is not only about him, that we have a child to take care of, and I have my own stuff too, that I refuse to save him every time he does something stupid. And this is not even the first time that he has no money and can't work. I've tried to have empathy for him, and that's why I've done all that I have. But I have nothing left to give. When your partner falls, you're supposed to be there to catch them, but how much is too much? And I can't see him as anything more than a liar. I can't trust him, and I don't know how to move on. I don't have time to save what I need again. I don't have a family to go to, and he will most likely just give me my son, and I will gladly allow that, but I need a place for him too, and I literally only have a month to figure everything out. My family will just tell me that I'm wrong for leaving him, but I don't think I am. So seriously, how do I move on? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, this is a crazy deal breaker for me. If I was with my partner and we saved all this money to like, I don't know, get a house and move forward with our life, and I then found out they had a crappy investment and they just lost all of it, I would seriously be pissed off. Like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm not going to tell you whether you should or shouldn't stay with this person. Like, that really is up to you. But I know if I was in your shoes, I would be rethinking just about everything about this relationship, because what you're describing right now sounds like an absolute nightmare. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend's mom that she's not allowed in our bedroom anymore after it's become pretty apparent that she's been snooping around? Because right now I'm being made to look like the bad guy here, and at this point I just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, I'm a 28-year-old female and my boyfriend is 31 years old. We've lived together for about a year and his mom comes by maybe twice a month because she lives an hour away and likes to drop off food or little things for him. I used to think it was sweet, but over time I started noticing she acts way too comfortable in our apartment, and this is especially true in our bedroom. The first time I got weirded out was when I came home and found that she had folded the clean laundry that was sitting on the chair at the end of the bed. I thanked her because I didn't know what else to say, but I told my boyfriend later that it really made me uncomfortable. Since then, she has put away socks, opened the windows in our room because she said it felt stuffy, and once moved a basket from my side of the closet into the hallway because it looked cluttered. Last weekend, I got home from work and I realized that she had been in there again because my nightstand drawer was halfway open and a bottle of prescription cream I keep in the back was now sitting out front. And my God, I was mortified. I told her directly but calmly that I need our bedroom to be off limits from now on, and that if she wants to help out, she can stay in the kitchen or in the living room. She then got very quiet, and my boyfriend later said I made her feel like a thief when she was only trying to be nice. But I said nice people don't go through private spaces after being hinted at multiple times. He's now saying that I owe her an apology, but honestly, I don't really think that I need to. So am I the jerk here? Because this honestly is really frustrating. No, you're definitely not the jerk. This is so stupid. She's going through your private, drawer by your bed, dude. That's weird. She's even pulling out prescription cream that you're like, yeah, I don't want the world seeing this. This is not her being helpful. This is her snooping around and, invading your privacy. So no, you definitely don't owe anybody an apology, as you literally didn't do anything wrong. Your boyfriend's mom has no business being in your bedroom. And the fact that that's not obvious is just really weird in my opinion. Am I the jerk for speaking to my overweight assistant about her business lunch? Because after I tried to give her some professional advice, she tried to turn all of this around on me by basically implying that I called her fat, even though I definitely didn't. Because right now I feel like I screwed all of this up and I just don't know what to do next. Here's how it started. At the beginning of the year, I hired an assistant who I will call Amy for the sake of the story. Amy is great at what she does, and I have already given her a raise because I felt she was underpaid for what she was doing. I'm working on several large deals, so I gave Amy the lead on one of them, and she did an excellent job. I then set up a lunch appointment with that client on Friday, and I told them that I would be bringing Amy as she's been instrumental in their account, and the client didn't have a problem with this. Amy was professional, knowledgeable, and did an overall good job. The client and I were both impressed, but there was one small exception. The client and I both ordered burgers and fries. Meanwhile, Amy ordered a steak that was well done with mashed potatoes, steamed vegetables, and a side of soup. The client and I finished about the same time, but it was another 15 minutes before Amy finished. Then the waitress came around and asked if we wanted dessert. The client and I both said no, but Amy ordered cheesecake and coffee. Now, I realized that I hadn't spoken to Amy about client lunches before, so after the meeting, I explained to her that it was best to follow the client's lead. If they order simple food, then we've got to order simple food. If they decline dessert, then we decline dessert. If we want something afterwards, we can pick it up later. Well, Amy didn't take this well. At first, she offered to pay me back, but I told her it was not a money issue. I have no problem buying her lunch, but please keep in mind that this is about business. I also told her that I usually order wraps or burgers because they are not too messy, or even stuff like spaghetti, and I can take small bites in case I'm asked a question. I can also match the client's eating speed so there's no awkward waiting on either side. Well, after explaining all this, she started crying, saying it's because she's fat, and trust me, those are her words and not mine. But I again told her that it was about strategy. Now, I thought she had great potential, and I really wanted to help guide her. I then told her about some of my past mistakes. For example, ordering spaghetti and getting it all on my shirt, or one time I ordered first, and I ordered a cheeseburger when the client was vegetarian, and because of that, they were highly disgusted at me. Well, when she left, she was still upset, and right now I feel like a jerk for bringing this to her attention, but my intentions really were good. I feel like she has great potential. The meal didn't concern me as much as how she took instruction, and now I'm wondering if others think I was wrong for bringing it up at all. What should I do? Okay, honestly, I think other people in the comments section really feel the same way here, but there is absolutely nothing you can do to get through to someone who is clearly determined to misunderstand you. Because dude, you didn't say anything about her weight. She literally used that as some kind of default cop-out instead of I don't know, listening to what you had to say. Because you said nothing about her being fat. This absolutely was not part of the issue. The real issue is that everyone ordered a burger, meanwhile she's eating an entire meal. Steak and mashed potatoes and vegetables and soup. And yeah, of course, I will definitely be the only one ordering some kind of cheesecake and coffee. Dude, read the room. This is not about you eating lunch. This is about getting to know the client and I don't know, getting a sale. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. You didn't make fun of her for her weight. You were giving her professional advice to do better business. And if she really can't take that and she's going to be like, oh, is this because I'm fat? And then storm off crying, then holy crap, she is probably in the wrong business because you didn't say any of that. And the fact that she would try to imply that is really toxic. Am I overreacting about my boyfriend leaving his Nintendo Switch at my house, as he's practically demanding that I play on his instead of my roommate's, claiming that his is better than my roommate's Switch, putting me in a situation that honestly is super annoying because I've been asking my boyfriend if I could play on his Switch for such a long time, and so for him to change his attitude suddenly just because he sees me playing on a different Switch has put me in a really bad mood, and I just don't know if I'm overreacting. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my boyfriend and I got into a disagreement last night about his Nintendo Switch being brought and left at my house. Now, I don't have a Switch, but I've always loved Nintendo games. And knowing that he had one and didn't use it, I asked him months prior if I could use it. I didn't ask to keep it or anything like that, just to use it once in a while. He brought it to my house once, didn't really get to use it because he wanted to do some other things, and then took it home because he didn't think it was a good idea to leave it. I have asked multiple times after that if I could use it, and he would just either forget about it or just say no. So after a while, I just dropped the subject. Well, Well, about a week ago, a family friend moved into my house, and he's a big gamer, and he also has a Switch. He full on said that I could use it whenever I want and however I wanted, and that I should just have fun with it. Well, my boyfriend came over and saw that I was playing with it and started giving me an attitude about using my friend's Switch. And then the next day, all of a sudden, my boyfriend brings his Nintendo Switch and all of his controllers too. Now, I asked him why he brought all this stuff, and he said because I should be playing with his because it's better. But I told him that's ridiculous. It's not like he has any different games than my friend, but he literally just completely removed my friend's Switch, connected his, and started wanting to play games with me. Well, when he did that, I told him to take it home, and he said, no, it's okay, I'll just leave it here. And for the entire week, I've been annoyed by this. Last night, I told him to take it home, it's not staying here, and the only reason he brought it over was because I was using another man's Switch, and that his ego was bruised for some weird reason. He then said that I'm overreacting, and that if it stays at his place, it's just gonna collect dust. So seriously, am I overreacting here? Like, this honestly seems super weird, and I don't know what to do. Yeah, your boyfriend's being a complete jerk. Here you are asking him like, dude, can I please just use your Nintendo Switch like even one time? And he says no repeatedly, but the second your male roommate steps in and says, oh yeah, you can use my Switch, suddenly this guy's like, oh no, you're gonna use mine, mine's better. Like, bro, why not just give it to her in the first place? Why be so difficult about this? It really just seems super childish to act like this and to like be so standoffish with your girlfriend until she finds another way to like make this happen. So no, you're not overreacting. It seems like your boyfriend definitely did this on purpose, and that in my opinion is unacceptable. An entitled jerk parks his car in my driveway and then decides to give me an attitude when I ask him who he is, which honestly was so baffling because this guy had no reason to act this entitled. And I'm truly just so blown away by the way he acted that I just simply cannot get over it. Here's what happened. Okay, for starters, I was just sitting on my front patio minding my own business, enjoying the weather and just people watching in general. Well, suddenly a guy pulls his car into the driveway behind my car and gets out. I have no idea who this person is. And when he gets out of his car, he doesn't even look my way or say anything to me. Now, I was curious about who he was, so I say to him, hey, can I help you with something? I just wasn't sure why he was there because I'm the only tenant out of the two houses at the moment, and I don't know if he's planning on parking and leaving. He then says back in a snarky tone, no, you can't help me with anything. I'm just delivering something next door. Are you going to be moving your car in the next 3 minutes? I then replied back by saying, you know, I'm just asking because I don't know who you are, and you don't have to give me an attitude since you're parking in my driveway. He's gone for a few minutes and then comes back to get his car. He then rolls down his window and shouts to me that I'm a jerk and a Karen. And it's like, what in the world, entitled much? If he would have gotten out of his car and said something somewhat friendly like, oh, I'm making a quick delivery next door. Do you mind if I park here for 3 minutes? Then I honestly would not have minded at all. He then came back like 10 minutes later after my guy friend showed up and parked behind me. I guess he forgot a bag when he was delivering or something like that. And I pointed this guy out to my friend and he looked over the both of us. And wouldn't you know it, he suddenly had nothing to say. He gave me so much attitude for no reason. He felt entitled by parking in my stupid driveway, then being a douchebag when I simply asked who he was. There's some serious rage going on with this guy that I don't think anybody can help out with. Yeah, that guy's got some guts, dude. There's no way I would ever be okay with this. First of all, there's cameras all over the place, so there's a very high likelihood someone recorded that interaction, and I can guarantee you whoever he's delivering for will probably see it online, as it seems like this kind of banter always goes viral online where it's like, oh yeah, this guy parked in my driveway and he refused to move, or something like that. So this really could have gone bad for the jerk in question. Like, this guy had no reason to give an attitude like this, and he had no reason to be like, oh, I'm just gonna be gone for like 3 minutes. It's not a big deal. Like, this could have been really bad for him and his car. Like, dude, if the original poster was a different kind of person, they could have easily keyed your car and denied ever even touching it. So yeah, this guy has some guts on him to act this entitled about someone else's driveway, because under any other circumstance, and I would argue like most other circumstances in today's day and age, things could have ended in a significantly different manner. I banned a woman from my social media page, only for her to then threaten to call the police on me if I don't unban her, which honestly was like super amusing to see and incredibly frustrating at the same time. Here's what happened. Okay, so I have a small Facebook group that functions as a community message board, all because I found other ones way too cluttered. They're also like a very simple set of rules that are mostly self-policed, since it is a fairly small town, but I do exit people from time to time if they're problems, or if they try to bring up like arguments about national politics or things that are really irrelevant. Anyways, this woman, who has been kind of a problem before, is apparently a member of Alcoholics Anonymous by her own admission, and that's totally fine. Like, that's all well and good. And truly, I I say good for her. Well, that was until she publicly outed another member of Alcoholics Anonymous. For the uninitiated, the anonymous part is really important for this organization, and that is a huge violation of community trust. I banned her in like a second because that is something you do not do to people in recovery. Well, when I do this, she starts messaging me incessantly. Then she starts messaging my wife and then other administrators saying that it's not fair and that she doesn't even remember doing it, as though that's some kind of like excuse that makes it any better. I told her to go make amends with the person she did it to, and if that person was okay with it, then and only then would I consider unbanning her. I get that we don't always catch people at their best moments, and I wasn't the wrong party, so this seemed like maybe a little more than reasonable. Well, of course, she followed up with something far more reasonable. She not only refused to apologize to the person, but she also said she was going to call the police on me if I didn't allow her to post in a Facebook group. She phrased it like she was doing me a favor by not having already done it, which is a really good way to make yourself not look like a menace lady. I don't know if she ever did, but apparently in this entitled mind, I should be forced to take my time and effort to provide this woman with a community under threat of state violence. But eventually I blocked her and I reported her, because this was some crap I did not want to deal with for another second. Yeah, this lady's a piece of crap, dude. You don't do that. Especially outing someone for being an alcoholic. Like, dude, the anonymous part of that organization is super important. So good for you for getting this lady out of your community. She sounds like a piece of crap, and honestly, you did the right thing. Am I overreacting for not letting my wife go on a vacation alone with her work husband? All because I feel uncomfortable with it and I really just don't think it's right. Here's what's happening. Okay, so my girlfriend has this close guy friend from work who I will call Mark for the sake of the story. She calls him her work husband, which has always low-key bugged me, but I've really tried to be cool about it. They text a lot and grab lunch sometimes, and it's like whatever, I mean I trust her, but recently she dropped some news on me that has completely destroyed me. Mark is going on a road trip to visit some national parks for a week, and his original friend bailed on him, so he asked my girlfriend to go with him instead. And she is actually considering it, just the two of them sharing a car and probably sharing a hotel room to save money. I told her straight up, that makes me super uncomfortable. She then says that I'm being insecure and that he's like a brother to her. But I told her even if that's true, it's about respect. I mean, how would she feel if I went on a week-long trip with a work wife? She said it's different and now we're in a huge fight. So seriously, am I overreacting here? Because I really just don't think I am. Okay, dude, there's no way you're overreacting. This is so weird. First off, can we get rid of the descriptions of like, oh, this is my work husband? Because I don't think I've ever met someone who uses that kind of language, who's also in a stable relationship. Like, what are we doing? Why would you pit your partner against someone at work? Like, that honestly is so weird. Even if you are joking, like, why would you joke about that? And sure, maybe it's just a label and it's more of like a tongue-in-cheek remark as opposed to like something legitimate. But what's being described here sounds a little bit more than just like, oh yeah, we work together a lot and we get along. In my opinion, I think Mark asking her to go on this vacation, in my opinion, is sketchy and almost like a setup for something to happen. Like, it just seems like he's really hoping something might happen with his work wife while they're away, and that just is not okay in my book. So no, you're not overreacting. I would also not be okay with this, and it kind of makes me feel like there's something else going on here because this just doesn't seem right. Am I the jerk for not liking my birthday present that my coworkers gave me? Because after the fact, they kind of called me out for not being grateful, and at this point, I don't know if I made a mistake. Here's what happened. Okay, so I work in a small company of about 6 employees, and my birthday is just 2 days apart from one of my coworkers, who is also now my good friend since we have been working together for like 4 years now. Every birthday, we make sure that everybody gets something thoughtful and everybody contributes. And everybody's okay with participating as long as it's not expensive, but I always think that it's better to spend the same amount for everybody. And since we're celebrating my coworker's birthday and mine at separate times, I feel like it should be the same amount. I usually say something about it, how equity is important, and this time directly asked if our presents were more or less the same amount. When asked about it, they said they got me something small, but that it was the intention that counted, and that I would be very happy with my present. And if I wanted my present to be the same amount, then I shouldn't spend so much money on my coworker's gift. And for reference, his present was like $35, and everyone agreed to participate. Now, my other coworkers were aware of both presents, and they helped me choose my friend's gift. Now, to add additional context, I have a particular taste which makes gift giving really easy for me. I moved into a new apartment and I'm decorating, and because it might be relevant, I have a dog which I love very much and is a very big part of my life. So we went out celebrating the birthdays yesterday evening with the whole team, and eventually the time for giving out presents came along. My friend was very happy with his, so I was happy. But as I opened my gift and realized what it was, I could not not contain myself by saying, "What is this thing?" It was the most hideous thing I've ever seen in my life. It was a dog garland with very poorly painted dogs on this thin cupboard put in a garland. And I seriously was so surprised and disappointed by this that I couldn't fake liking it. I didn't openly say that I didn't like it, but I just kept repeating that it was dog garland, and that they obviously knew me well, quite ironically, but also with like an edge of anger if I'm being completely honest. I quickly moved on to another subject because I felt I was being disrespectful, and I also knew I could cry very easily. Later in the evening, they said my reaction was not appropriate. They tried to justify choosing it because they didn't know what to get me, and that they saw this in the plant store next door and really thought I would like it. I didn't want to make them feel bad about the gift, and I tried to reassure them. So I showed the garland to a bunch of people to try and get different opinions. And you know what? They all say that it's hideous and that it wasn't very nice to give to me. But honestly, I don't know what to think. Is it normal to let something like this affect me so much? Am I really the jerk for reacting this way? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, holy crap, yes, the original poster absolutely is the jerk. I don't care if they give you like a rock as a birthday present. When they give it to you, you look at them and say, "Thank you so much, I really appreciate this." Then you put the bag down and you finish dinner. Because holy crap, getting a gift from coworkers doesn't matter, dude. Just accept it, say thank you, and then that's the end of it. On the other hand, you don't want to do what the original poster did and be like, "I'm sorry, but what is this thing? This really looks awful. I can't believe you bought this." And I don't know about anyone else if you've ever participated in like office gift giving or any of that crap, but most of the time, at least in my case, unless I'm like really good friends with this person, and I mean really good friends, where we're spending time outside of work and doing stuff together, I'm probably just gonna get you the bare minimum and just assume that this is gonna be good. Because guess what? We're just coworkers. We're not family. We're not even good friends. We are literally just coworkers, and that's the end of it. So if you're expecting some like elaborate gift from me, then you're gonna be sorely disappointed. And that is exactly what happened here. So yeah, you're definitely the jerk. This could have been an easy thing for you to hide, but instead you decided to take it personally, which in my opinion is incredibly entitled and very stupid. Today, I found out that my boyfriend has a secret 1-year-old daughter, as I literally found out about this from a sibling of his while I was in the middle of having dinner with his family. And now I feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place because my boyfriend and I are still teenagers, and I can confidently say that I am definitely not ready to be a stepmom. Here's what's happening. Okay, to start things out, I'm a 15-year-old female, and recently I've been dating this guy that I'll call Derek for the sake of the story. He's 17 years old, and our relationship had been going perfect. He bought me flowers, took me out on cute dates, remembered small details about me, and calls me beautiful every single day. One day I was having dinner with him, his mom, and his sister, when suddenly his sister asked me, "So Derek, how's the baby doing?" And I didn't think anything of it at first, thinking maybe she meant a cousin or something like that, until she turned to me and joked, "Wow, you're the world's youngest stepmother." And it's at that moment that it finally clicked. I raised an eyebrow and I looked at him and I said, "You have a baby?" And he quickly grabbed my hand and practically dragged me to his room and started explaining how it was an accident, but he has a 1-year-old from it. Now, at first I was supportive and I told him it was okay and that I understood, but that slowly started to dissolve when he started to text me and call me on the regular. He would ask me to watch the baby or take her places, and even wanted me to buy her diapers and formula. Now, I understand that he may need help, but I'm only 15 years old, and he has a job as well and a mother. After about 2 weeks of this, he asked me to cancel my softball game to watch his daughter, all while he would go out with his friends. And that's the moment when I snapped and I told him, "I'm not her mom. She is your responsibility and I want nothing to do with her. I'm only 15 years old. And if you're not okay with that, then I want nothing to do with you either." Well, he then called me a jerk and a bunch of other cruel names. And in that moment, I really felt bad for his daughter. I mean, she didn't ask to be born, but I refused to give up my teenage years taking care of someone else's child while her father goes to parties all the time. What should I do? Okay, I cannot believe what I just read. That is probably the craziest thing I've seen in a long time. Because holy crap, what do you mean he has a 1-year-old daughter? This guy knocked up some chick from high school at the age of 16, and he's trying to throw this on you to be like, "Hey, can you watch my daughter while I go partying?" Like, dude, what are you talking about? You guys are teenagers. You should not be having that kind of responsibility on your shoulders. Especially for the original poster. Like, they're 15 years old. They've only been dating for a little bit. Like, what's going on right now? Like, dude, you're only 15. You should not be dealing with this yet. That is way too young, especially from a guy who, for all intents and purposes, would probably get you pregnant as well. So holy crap, if I was in your shoes, I would run for the hills. I would dump him, say this is not working, and move on with my life. Because this entire scenario is incredibly sketchy and you can do way better than this. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my dad that I don't forgive him and I never will, even on his deathbed? Because after having a lifetime of him treating me like crap, he only reached out to me when he realized that he was going to kick the bucket, forcing me to make a choice that honestly was incredibly hard. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I grew up with a father who was emotionally mistreating me for most of my life. He constantly belittled me, called me names, compared me to others, and made me feel like I was worthless. When I was a teenager, I struggled with anxiety and depression, and instead of helping me, he would say things like, "Oh, you're just being dramatic," or he would say, "Oh, you'll never survive the real world if you can't handle me." When I finally left for college, I went no contact for years. My mom still tried to keep in touch with me, and while I maintained some contact with her, I never reconnected with him. He never apologized, not even once. Recently, I got a call from my mom saying that my dad's health had declined drastically, and now apparently he's in the hospital. She said that he's been asking to see me and wants to make things right before it's too late. Now, I hesitated for days, but eventually I went. When I saw him, he looked frail and weak, but as soon as I sat down, he started crying. He said to me, "I know I wasn't a good dad, but I want your forgiveness so I can have peace." But you know what? I told him calmly, "You don't get to do this now. You had decades to apologize and you never cared until you were dying. I don't forgive you and I never will." He then started crying harder and my mom looked furious with me. She later called me heartless and said I'd regret this for the rest of my life. But honestly, I feel relieved. Like I finally said what I needed to. I'm not angry anymore, but instead I'm just done. Even still, I can't help but wonder if I was too cruel. So am I at fault for the things I said to my dad, especially considering the way he treated me growing up? Because at this point, I don't know if this is a mistake or not. Okay, honestly, I can only imagine having that kind of upbringing and then being met with years of mistreatment and him refusing to apologize. Like, sure, this guy's passing away on his deathbed, literally in a hospital, and he's trying to make things right, but it's like, dude, you could have done this so many decades earlier. Because at that point, it really is too late. Sure, he feels guilty about it and he wants to find some kind of peace, but the original poster has never had any peace with this situation. They've literally had a lifetime of their dad treating them like garbage. So I just can't stand the way he's acting. Him trying to make things right, even though he knew what he did was wrong probably years ago. And someone in the comment section said it best, because I agree with this so much. They basically said it's always the people who are cruel and unusual towards you when you're a child, who have no conscience and make no effort to make things right, are the first person right at the last second when they're about to die to call you up and be like, "I want to make things right." Like, I'm sorry, this is not some kind of movie. You're not the person who deserves closure in this situation. It's your child that you treated like crap for years. So with all things considered, I don't think you're the jerk. This is obviously a very sensitive situation, and I'm sure this feels like a raw nerve. I mean, everything must be coming back to you like all at once, and I don't blame you for being frustrated. But regardless, I really hope you find some kind of like solace and like closure in this situation, because this seriously sounds awful, and I'm so sorry that you went through this. Today, I got some petty revenge by tracking down and confronting the Lyft driver that stole my AirPods, as I literally humiliated him in front of his entire family as they were trying to eat together at Chuck E. Cheese. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I was visiting some friends in another city, and I dropped my AirPods in the back of a Lyft leaving a bar. I realized the next morning, and I sent the guy a lost item report, and he claims that he doesn't have them. So I just go back home and I forgot about it. Well, that is until about a day later, when I see in my Find My Device app that they were being charged and actively used, and I see them moving all around a city as a driver would. Now, I'm not usually a spiteful person, but that was brazen theft. Well, unlucky for him, I had some free time, and 2 weekends later, I tracked him down in a car with those same friends. The Find My Device app leads us to a Chuck E. Cheese, and we found his car in the parking lot. I then explained the situation to the security guard, and I showed him a picture of the Lyft driver. The security guard led us right to him, and I asked him straight up what his name was, to which he confirmed and nervously replied, "Yeah, that's me." I then said to him quite bluntly, "You stole my AirPods." Well, as a result of all of this, his family had to all leave the Chuck E. Cheese to his car parked in the lot, and I got to watch him put them awkwardly back in the case and hand me back my AirPods. Now, I did feel bad, but come on, doing that is absolutely insane, so this guy absolutely deserved it. Oh man, this is one of those situations where it's like, man, I would lose my mind if someone did that. Seriously, just do the right thing, man. There is so much tracking capabilities out there for items that it's just not worth stealing, dude. He should have just been a good person and been like, yeah, I've got them, they're in my car, I can get them to you. But instead, he wanted to be a common thief, leading to him getting embarrassed in a way that I think he will never forget. Today, I participated in a nuclear revenge that honestly I never wanted to get mixed up in the first place, putting me in a situation where I was able to help my friend out in a way that he really needed. Here's how it all went down. Okay, let me start off by saying that this was something I didn't ask to be involved in. Recently, I helped expose my friend's ex-girlfriend who was cheating on him. She had ended their relationship with the classic, "Oh, I want to be friends," followed by the classic line of, "We should just be friends." My friend asked her a simple question, "Okay, who is the other guy?" And she responded by asking how he knew. You know, the same predictable reaction in these situations. She eventually admitted that she was dating my cousin. The problem is that both she and my cousin are on probation, and in New York State, anyone on probation must avoid associating with others who are in trouble with the law. Now, my friend was understandably upset. He had invested almost a year into this relationship and had helped care for her 4-year-old autistic son, truly treating the child as if he were his own. He then called and asked if I could help even the score, since I had completed 6 years of probation myself. I then smiled and told him that I could absolutely explain the rules without any problem, which I definitely did. Subsequently, he went to both her probation officer and my cousin's officer to report their relationship. He also informed them about a firearm possession, which constitutes a probation violation. Then he mentioned to me that she was selling her food stamps, namely $50 in benefits for $50 in cash. And he actually asked me if this was illegal. And when I heard this, I just laughed. And I explained that yeah, if she was caught, she could permanently lose her benefits, and whoever was helping her would also be breaking the law. He then proceeded to report her to the Department of Social Services for fraud, then to the Social Security Administration for misappropriating her son's benefits. Finally, he reported her to her landlord for not paying rent, describing how the apartment was filled with trash and significantly damaged. And now, after all this, she's facing potentially 3 years in jail between the probation violations, the food stamp fraud, and pretty much everything else she's been doing. She's losing her financial support, her son's benefits, and possibly custody of her son. Now, I feel bad for the child, but her pattern of mistreating people and her general behavior is honestly something that simply could not continue any longer. Oh man, this is some deep crap. First of all, this is one of those situations where yeah, she does not sound like a winner and she absolutely needed to be put in her place. And this is not in some kind of like, ooh, I got revenge kind of way. This is a situation where she is literally breaking the law, and that is incredibly concerning, especially with a kid involved. So I think it did the right thing with all things considered, because this lady was not doing good things and she absolutely deserved to get punished. Am I the jerk for making my older coworker miss a major client meeting, all because I refused to cover his shift for free at the last second? Because right now he's saying that I sabotaged him, and at this point I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, I'm a 19-year-old female, and I work part-time as a receptionist at a small firm while also taking night classes. My coworker, who I'll call Mark for the sake of the story, is 48 years old and the office manager. He is super disorganized, and our front desk is just the two of us. I gave him my academic schedule 3 months ago, so he would know exactly when I can and cannot work. Now, Mark has the habit of calling out last minute, usually citing some stomach issues, and pressuring me to cover his shift. He leans really hard on the line of being a team player and that you need initiative for advancement. A while back, he even had me work 12 hours straight unpaid, and I missed a critical college presentation because of that. Well, I documented it and emailed Human Resources, saying that I wouldn't cover unscheduled shifts overlapping with school unless it was approved and paid. Well, yesterday, 2 hours before a huge client meeting, Mark called hysterically, asking me to drop my last lecture to cover his shift. And of course, there was no mention of pay. He tried guilt-tripping me about all the flexibility I owed him, and said if anything went wrong, it would be my fault. But you know what? I stood firm. I told him that I couldn't come, and reminded him it's a management problem, not a staff shortage. Well, Mark missed the meeting, the client was upset, and now he's spreading it around that I sabotaged him. So seriously, am I the jerk for not rearranging my academic life just to bail him out? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, not only are you not the jerk, but this also sounds like a fantastic new email for Human Resources. You refused to work for no pay and to cover this at the last second, and now because of that, Mark's retaliating against you, actively spreading lies and starting a smear campaign. Like, I don't know if you know this, but that is absolutely not okay. That's incredibly unprofessional and unethical, and there's no reason you should ever put up with that. So no, you are not the jerk. You do not work for free. This is not a charity. And by the way, they had better pay you back for those 12 hours. Like, my God, if they didn't, I absolutely would be going somewhere else, because these people are taking advantage of you and you do not need that in the slightest. Would I be the jerk if I didn't let my sister move into my new apartment just so she and her partner can save money before getting their own place? Because right now this all feels very last minute and it's putting me in a really weird situation. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so yesterday I received a message from my sister, who I'll call Kim for the sake of the story. She asked if she could move in with me for a few months because her and her husband decided that they want to move out of the country. To do that, they need to save money. So they decided to not renew their lease and stay with family for a bit. Kim's husband is staying with his sister, who I'll call Julia, and Kim can't stay with Julia because Julia has mold in her house. Kim's 1-year-old son is dealing with some health problems, and living in a moldy home would make things worse for my nephew. Our mom's house also has mold too, and Kim's working with a specialist right now to help out with his health conditions. She then told me that it would only be for 3 months, because according to her, after 3 months, he will be healed enough to live in a home with mold in it, and they will then go back to Julia's house. Now, as for my new apartment, I haven't even had the meeting to sign the lease yet, but it is scheduled and the plan is to move in next month. The first main thing is that I love living alone. Having my own safe space to myself means everything to me. So at first I was like, no way. But I am very much a people pleaser, so I really felt bad saying no. Like, is it worth saying no to protect my peace? The second thing is that she has not brought up any kind of way to help around the apartment, such as payments or anything like that. So it seems like she's expecting to be in my space for at least 3 months with her child for free. The third thing is that their lease ends November 31st. And I just have a lot of questions. Like, when did they realize they were going to do this? What's the plan? What's the budget? Why did you wait so last minute to tell me about this? And many more questions. I told her that I would have to take some time to think about it and that I have a lot of questions that I need answered. We are going to have a more in-depth phone call tomorrow about it, but I just wanted some outside perspective because right now I'm not sure what to do. Okay, in my opinion, this seems like a last-minute decision because they know you're going into a brand new apartment. And you've got the right mindset here. They're not talking about paying you back or paying to stay there or anything like that. And that, in my opinion, is a big red flag. Like, if I'm asking to stay at someone's place for 3 months, I'm also asking how much I can pay for rent. Because this really does seem very timely with you having a new apartment. And they probably waited till the last second and said, oh, maybe the original poster can help us out. So no, if you do say that your sister can't move in with you, I don't think you would be the jerk at all. I really don't think this is your problem, and I think if anything, this is the result of your sister not planning properly. And for me in my life, I've always lived by the saying that someone else's lack of planning is not my emergency. My husband refuses to allow me to have any access to our shared money, as I am constantly having to justify anything that I spend in our own home, putting me in a situation where I'm really frustrated and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that my husband is the breadwinner of the family. I'm finishing school for another degree and starting a business from home, so his income takes care of pretty much everything right now, except when I freelance, I pay for whatever my son and I need instead of asking my husband for it, but I also pay bills and give him what he thinks he might need. Now, my husband just got a bonus of over $4,000, and I asked him for $300 cash just to save it. He then asked me why, and I reiterated to have something in my own savings. You know, just a little drawer at home. He then said, "No, I don't want you spending any money on your ungrateful adult kids." I then told him that I didn't plan on it, and then he said to me, "Well, no, because we have to pay for my younger son's end of school year field trip," which, by the way, that would be $200. So when he said that, I apologized and I told him, "Okay, forget that I asked. I know that your money is your money." He then said to me, "No, it's our money." But despite that, I still have no access whatsoever. No debit, no cash, literally nothing. I'm so tired of having to ask him for $20 to $40 when I need something, and having to explain what it's for, whether it's food items or personal items. I'm tired of any time extra money comes in that he's still in full control of. When I have money coming in steadily, I also pay bills. I make large payments during emergencies, I buy him gifts or things that he needs, etc. And I don't bat an eye about it because I love being able to help out. But when mine runs out, I have no access to his. So am I overreacting right now? Because this honestly is incredibly frustrating. No, you're not overreacting at all, because your husband is saying one thing but actually acting in a different way. If that money is literally for both of you, then why do you not have any access to it? Why do you have to justify everything that you're spending or buying all the time with this man? Like, that is obnoxious. I would hate that. And if anything, it kind of seems like he's financially mistreating you. Like, you really should have access to this money, especially if you're on like a joint account or something like that. So no, you're not the jerk. This is honestly really awful. And I think if I was in your shoes, I would also be pretty pissed off. My entitled shift leader tried to tell me that I couldn't go on an early break as she said that me being in pain was not a good enough excuse. But after still recovering from surgery on my leg, I decided that enough was enough, forcing me to get revenge on these people by literally quitting in the middle of my shift on the busiest day of our week. And I'm honestly so satisfied by the way this went down. Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of relevant information here, back in January, I found out I had a tumor in my tibia in my left leg, and it was pretty bad. I went for an appointment with a surgeon in April, and he told me I couldn't work at that time because of a risk of snapping the bone. So I had my surgery in June and finally returned to work about 2.5 weeks ago. Even though I returned with no restrictions, I was warned I would still have to be careful because it's still fresh, and if I push myself too hard, it could end badly. So this previous Sunday, I was working, and that is our busiest day. I was a curbside shopper and was on carryout. About an hour and a half into my shift, my leg started hurting so bad that I couldn't walk. Like I seriously wanted to cry in pain. I then asked my shift leader if I could go on my break 20 minutes early because I couldn't walk and I just needed to rest so I don't cause any problems with my leg. Well, she responded by saying, "I'm in pain too. This is a team effort, and unless you have a doctor's note, you can't leave break." And by the way, I did have a doctor's note. So about 5 minutes later, she left on break anyways. Now, after taking a breath, I thought to myself, I am so done with this. I've had multiple issues with her before and nothing has ever been done about it. So after my 15-minute break, I went up to a manager and I said, "I'm done, I'm quitting." And then I walked to the time clock and I clocked right out. A few minutes later, I got paged to my department and I just kind of laughed. My main boss then showed up to work a few minutes later as I got my groceries, and I was checking out as he walked by, giving me a side glance, and then he turned his head away and looked really mad at me. But after all the stuff I had to go through, I was just done. I left in the middle of my shift on our busiest day, and I opened all this week. So honestly, these people deserve it because they absolutely have mistreated me for far too long. Oh man, imagine being so heartless that you have to sit there and be like, "Oh, you had surgery on your leg and you're now in pain? Sorry, but you can't do that if you have a doctor's note," even though the original poster literally had one. Like, are you kidding me right now? I think the funniest part is something that someone else noted, and that is that you literally quit and then bought groceries for yourself all before leaving. Like, I don't know, that's really funny in my opinion, and I just love that visual. But regardless, good for you because this job sounds like it really sucked. An entitled Karen tried to scan my badge for a discount at the store I worked at, and then tried to claim that I attacked her when I took my badge back, resulting in one of the most bizarre situations I've ever been in my entire life. Here's how it all went down. Okay, to start things out, I work part-time at the big red store. I'm at the front end with the carts, and the pay is okay if you ask me. Well, yesterday a lady pushes a mountain cart to my lane, and the total for her items ends up being about just under $300. She then spots my lanyard and says to me, "Hey sweetie, scan your employee discount for me, okay? I mean, we're all struggling right now." I then say to her, "It's only for employee use or household. I'm sorry, but I can't do that." Now, instead of taking no for an answer, she reaches over the counter and literally grabs my badge by the clip and then shoves the barcode at the reader. And this thing beeped angry. I then take it right back from her. And as a side note, no, I was not rough with her. I literally just took it back. But when I did that, she snaps at me and says, "Don't you touch me. What did you just do?" At this point, people are staring, my cheeks are burning, and my hands are shaky. My managers then walk up, and we go to the tiny camera room that smells like dust toner. The video eventually shows her handle my stuff clear as day, and at this point she starts crying again. She asks for a gift card and says that I ruined her kid's birthday. It was here that the manager prints a trespass notice. She then claims that she will call corporate and get me fired. Well, later on, my manager says that she called again, saying that I apparently promised her 20% off of a microwave that was just under $30. But thankfully, corporate shut that crap down. But after all that, I definitely went home tired because I am so exhausted dealing with customers who act this way. Dude, that is bonkers to me. Seriously, how can someone act like that? Imagine being so entitled that you think you're entitled to an employee discount, but also lie and say that someone attacked you after they literally tried to get their employee badge back. That is honestly crazy to me, and I'm so sorry that happened, but also it's so nice that she got in trouble for what she did, because that kind of behavior is completely unacceptable. My entitled friend demands that I drop everything that I'm doing at work just so I can give her money so that she can get home. But after being treated like her personal ATM for quite literally the majority of our friendship, I finally have hit my breaking point as I told her I'm not doing it this time, resulting in her and her fiance, as well as a bunch of her friends, messaging me and saying that I'm being selfish. And at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm an 18-year-old female, and I've been best friends with a girl who I'll call Amy for the sake of the story ever since I was around 14 years old. During this time, Amy had taken advantage of my niceness a lot, as I am a huge people pleaser. She constantly uses me as an unpaid therapist and an ATM, which has been really getting getting annoying recently. In June, right after we finished our A-levels, Amy got engaged to her boyfriend, who we will call Nate, and even though I was happy for them because she had been with him since like the 7th grade, her engagement was awful for me as she expected me to organize 3 engagement parties. One for secondary school friends, one for 6th form friends, and one for friends from our sports teams. And I was expected to bring her a gift basket worth about $200 to each one of them, as well as buying her a set of gold, which is common in our culture, for about $400. Which, by the way, was really annoying because I ended up having to spend my entire paycheck for May and June on this, as well as dipping into my own savings. Throughout all of this, she was still going out and texting and spamming me, basically begging for money constantly. After the whole engagement party ordeal, I promised myself I wasn't going to spend any money on her that wasn't absolutely necessary, aside from birthdays and holidays, or if she was out at night and needs money for the bus or for like an Uber or something like that. Well, fast forward to today, and I was at work from like 9 o'clock until 6 o'clock p.m. At around 4:30 p.m., Amy started spam texting and calling me, but since I was on the shop floor, I didn't see it until I finished at about 6. Now, to sum up what she said in the text messages and voice notes, she said to me, "Hey, I'm out right now and I'm an hour away from my house, and it just started raining, and I have no money for the bus right now because I spent the last bit of my money getting lunch." Now, after I didn't respond, she proceeded to call me 7 times, as well as text me repeatedly the same things, saying that she couldn't ask anyone else because she was in a fight with both of her parents and fiance, and how apparently I was being a horrible friend for not sending it to her. Now, when I clocked out and I saw the text messages, the whole situation really annoyed me because she has my location and could clearly see I was at work, and I wasn't going out of my way to ignore her. On top of that, she is literally a grown adult. She should have known not to spend her last bit of money on lunch, especially if it meant she couldn't get home afterwards. It really annoyed me, so I didn't send her the money, and I actually texted her back saying that I didn't see her text message because, you know, I was at work, and then, you know what, I just didn't even bother sending her the money. Well, she told a handful of her friends, as well as her fiance, you know, the one she's supposed to be in a fight with, all about the entire situation. And of course, they all took turns texting me, saying I'm horrible for leaving her out in the cold, and that I should have sent her the money once I finished work, which has really got me wondering if I'm wrong for not sending her the money. So seriously, am I a bad friend for not sending money to my friend when she clearly needed it? Because right now I just don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna say it because this is crazy to me. Your friend does not care about you. They only care about your pocketbook and the money that's in it. Seriously, that's it. This Amy chick is 100% taking advantage of you, and everybody taking her side is out of their minds. Like, think about it for a second. Why are you the only person responsible for giving her money? Like, why can't all these other people messaging you also step up and be like, hey, I'll help you out for once? It just doesn't make any sense. Like, seriously. Every single one of these people are just a bunch of hypocrites in my opinion. And what she's asking of you at the age of 18 is just insane. She really wants you to throw 3 different engagement parties? Like, are you kidding me right now? That's gonna cost thousands of dollars each, and I'm willing to bet you probably don't have that kind of money right now. So in my opinion, if someone really is asking this much of you, and they're not at all showing any gratitude, or in any way, shape, or form standing up for themselves and doing things on their own, then in my opinion, that's a terrible friend who is absolutely taking advantage of you. Because if you keep letting this lady walk all over you, she will happily drain your entire savings dry, and quite literally never think twice about it, because her priorities are completely mixed up, especially if she's blaming you for her not getting home. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My idiotic job literally fires me from my job, all without telling me first, instead choosing to go behind my back as they plan on reassigning me to a different department without actually telling me first. But in the end, I was able to get some really petty revenge in a way that these people definitely were not expecting. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I do lab management for a lab. My background is not in the subjects studied in this lab, but I know the bare minimum and it doesn't get in the way of my job. I worked very hard to get where I'm at, and I have become very integral to the lab. A few months ago, I was put into a documentation role that also involved dealing with cryogenic storage. And last Friday, a meeting was held with everyone except for me, which was really strange. After the fact, a friend on my team told me that during the meeting itself, everyone was told that I would be taken off this role and it would be given to someone more knowledgeable on the subject. And obviously, this really was hurtful, and it was unprofessional of my manager to not speak to me before this. Now, there is a bit more to this story, where basically someone blamed me for ruining their experiment and doing something that I did not do. So instead of of actually talking to me about it, my manager just punished me for it and undermined me to the entire team. And the best part is that my manager has still not spoken to me to officially remove me from this role. Well, towards the end of the day, I received a message from the new untrained person in this role as they were asking me to do it for them. And again, at this point, no one had ever officially told me that I was no longer in my role. Oh, and by the way, they needed it done soon so that another scientist wouldn't be here past 6 o'clock in the evening. And that person just so happened to be the person that accused me. I responded back by saying, oh, I'll get back to you. But you know what? I never did. And the scientist had to stay several hours longer after the fact. Now, I know this didn't fix the situation, but honestly, with all things considered, it felt incredibly nice. Okay, honestly, any manager who does something like that is a complete piece of garbage. Like, seriously, think about it for a second. They would rather talk behind your back than actually approach you and be like, hey, this is what's going on. Like, if I'm not right for a role at work, dude, kick me to the curb and I will find something else. Or just put me in a position that you feel is more appropriate for my talents and my skills. Like, in no way, shape, or form do I ever want to be a burden on anybody else's workplace. So yeah, this didn't really fix the situation, but I don't blame you for a second in doing what you did, because your job's attitude towards you was completely unnecessary. Am I overreacting for being pissed off at my roommate after he suddenly quit his job as soon as we moved into our new house, putting me in a really frustrating situation because I really just don't know how to handle this any longer? Here's what's going on. I'm a 23-year-old female and I moved into a small 2-bedroom house at the start of the year with my boyfriend and his buddy who I'll call Simon. When we decided to move in, we all had full-time jobs and busy schedules. So I had expected that we would all be out and about during the day and just working so that each person gets their space. It wasn't a super cheap place, so Simon pays around $10 more per week for his room, while me and my boyfriend pay like $5 less and share a room. Well, 2 weeks after we moved in, Simon announces that he is quitting his job as he doesn't like it. I was a bit concerned at first as we had literally just moved in, and it's not really what I expected, but I hoped that he would start looking and find a new job within a few weeks of quitting. And to give him credit, his previous job wasn't great, and he probably did need a break from it. Fast forward, and it's now been 8 months since Simon left his job and we all moved in. Simon has not looked for a job once, and whenever the topic of jobs comes up, he says that he doesn't really want to work. Now, Simon sits at home all day long and blasts the TV loudly. He has his own room but never goes in it and constantly sits in the communal space. I go into work most days but work from home 1 day a week, and on my work from home days, he sits there blasting the TV with loud YouTube videos or sports. The house is so small, so my desk is essentially in the same place as the communal living space, but he continues to play loud TV and sits around all day. When I came home from work, he doesn't even offer anyone the TV or even moves out of the way. He just sits there till around midnight every single night. He then wakes up at about 7 o'clock in the morning just to do it all over again. Well, as a result, I am pissed off. His presence fills me with rage, and his TV playing nonstop fills me with rage too. I have no space in this house, which is something I expected to have even a little amount of when moving in, because I was under the impression that we would all be working. Look, I'm not an angry person, but I have built so much resentment that I started to hate him entirely. How on earth can you not see how inconsiderate it is to just sit around all day long? I have lived in several shared houses before this. However, I've never been so pissed off by someone in my life. It really feels like there's just this blob sitting around there all day, and I never have peace and quiet or a second to myself. So truly, am I right to feel pissed off and angry and disrespected that he literally left his job immediately after moving in? I feel like he's getting a pretty good deal on rent. However, he never uses his room apart from like going to sleep. I understand that we all live here, but I also think that you have to be pretty stupid to not think about how it could affect the other people you're living with. I literally dream about him moving out. I mean, I've never wanted anyone to get out of my life more than this guy. So seriously, am I being overdramatic or am I justified in any way, shape, or form? Because right now I'm really pissed off. Okay, this is such a massive betrayal of trust, it's not even funny. Simon literally pulled a fast one on all of you. He said, oh yeah, let's move in together. And then just almost immediately says, okay, psych, I'm just gonna quit my job, sorry about that. And it's like, dude, what are you talking about? Are you really just gonna sit around all day and not do anything? So in my opinion, I don't blame you for being pissed off. I will say though, if he is paying his rent and he's like cleaning up after himself and being a good roommate, aside from him blasting the TV way too loud, like if he's doing everything else, then I could see this working out, but I also think some hard boundaries would really be important in this situation, especially if you want to find some kind of like common ground between the two of you. So hopefully this can work out in some kind of way, because I really would not want to live with Simon, especially if they're blasting music and just being disrespectful overall. My family treats me as an emotional crutch for my sister, and after spending nearly 2 months with her trying to help her out, especially after she lost her husband earlier this year, I'm finding myself at the end of my rope, and at this point I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. When my sister lost her husband earlier this year, I immediately flew down and stayed with her for 2 months to support her through it. I love her and I've tried to be there in every way I can. More recently, she had to go somewhere for a few days and asked me to fly down and take care of her dog. It was supposed to be a 4-day visit, but I'm still here and it's been like over a month now, with time literally almost creeping up on 2 months in total. It's reached a point where I feel emotionally exhausted and honestly taken for granted. She gets triggered easily, not just by me, but by our mother as well, even though they live separately. And she's especially reactive when it comes to my husband, who has done absolutely nothing to deserve it. He is thoughtful, gentle, and respectful, but she seems to take issue with almost anything he does. When I try to clarify that he meant no harm, she says the problem isn't with me, but it is with him, even saying that I take her for granted. When I was trying to work, as it's really hard for me to focus sometimes, she threw a tantrum for not listening to her, which, by the way, I definitely was. When I told my husband what she said, that I treat her like an afterthought, he quietly said that he feels like I take him for granted whenever she's around. The difference is that he'd never yell at me for it, but she has. She still refuses to consider therapy no matter how gently I bring it up. I've become an emotional crutch and I'm expected to absorb everything while also putting my own life on hold. My family wants me to continue staying here away from my husband, and honestly, I'm at a point where I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, holy crap, your family is an idiot and I can't believe they're trying to force you into this. If your sister literally cannot figure her life out and she's taking all of her problems out on you, then in my opinion, that's a good sign that you need to pack up and get out of there. You are not responsible for this woman's emotional state. Seriously, you stayed for 2 months. And in my opinion, if she still doesn't have her crap figured out by then that's her problem, not yours. You don't have to be an emotional punching bag and you don't have to allow her to talk about your husband like that. So no, you're not the jerk for wanting to leave, because if I was in your shoes, I definitely would already be gone. Am I the jerk for telling my friend that her husband cheated on her, which eventually led to them getting divorced and me losing my job? Because right now, I'm not sure if I made a mistake and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so this happened last year, but it's honestly still on my mind. And there are 3 people aside from me involved in this situation. I'm a female and I worked as a nanny for a family alongside someone I will call Ashley. Our boss, who I will call Amy, was married to a man that I will call Chad, and together they have 3 kids. We were all good friends as well as coworkers and employees. One night after going out for a few drinks, Ashley told me that Chad had made moves on her and she had reciprocated. I let the information sit with me for a week and continued with work as usual. After a few drinks the following weekend, I let it slip to Amy that Chad and Ashley had hooked up. This then caused a huge fight between Ashley and Amy, which then caused Amy and Chad to get a divorce. Ashley lost her job obviously, and for a little while everything at work was fine with me. But after a few weeks, Amy told me that my nanny services would not be required until further notice. Now this really upset me, as I was very close with her family and I felt I hadn't done anything wrong. I no longer have any contact with anyone involved, aside from occasionally bumping into Amy as we live in the same area. Whenever we bump into each other, she is always pleasant and very friendly. She's always pleasant and friendly, and to my knowledge, she has not hired a new nanny at all. Now, my other friends think that I should have just minded my own business and kept my mouth shut. So I'm honestly needing to know, am I the jerk for saying anything about this? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, across the board, I think saying something was absolutely the right choice here. If you didn't say something, that honestly would have been messed up, and I think it would have been worse if you knew and didn't say anything. Even though this cost you your job, still, I really think this was the right path to make, so in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay a no-show fee for a cooking class that I was unable to attend? Because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm on vacation in Italy, and I found a chef who provides cooking classes on Instagram a few weeks ago, and I decided to book him. He works with his wife, and she gave me all the info necessary so that I could book him. She then said that payment was required up front, and I was expected to be wiring their location. Now, I really did not feel comfortable doing this at all, as it has happened to me before with upfront payments that I ended up being scammed, so I told her I would rather pay in cash the day of. Well, she was very nice and said typically they did not accept this, but was willing to give me the benefit of the doubt and let me book. And when she said this, I was so excited. When we arrived in town, I sent another email to check if everything was booked correctly, and she confirmed. Well, the day of came along, and in the morning we were out, but unfortunately I had no reception the entire time. When we got back to our villa, I noticed the chef's wife had sent me 2 emails and 1 Instagram direct message. One to tell me that they were waiting for us, and and to tell her if we needed anything, and the other one was 20 minutes later to tell me they emailed me and I wasn't responding. And then one last email said that they were leaving as we were too late. Now, I wasn't responding because I had no reception, but I panicked reading that. I had booked for 11 o'clock in the morning, but got my plans all mixed up and was positive the cooking class was at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I know it was my mistake entirely, and I replied to her apologizing a million times and telling her exactly what happened and asking how we could possibly reschedule, while also wondering if they could still come in at 3 o'clock. Well, that's about when the issues started to come out. She said they were all booked out at different locations and at different times, so there was nothing she could do to help us out. At the most, she said she could send us the recipes after being paid, and I was so confused about the payment and asked what that was about. She then sent us an invoice charging us half of the cooking class and said she was actually being nice, charging only half for the recipes. And she said she did this so that we would not feel like paying for nothing. And you know what? I was so baffled because yeah, I know it was my mistake and I apologized, but I had no idea this is how it works. What if someone gets sick and just can't come over? Anyways, I'm now thinking of an appropriate way to handle this, but I just feel like I shouldn't have to pay for something I didn't attend. If they work with tourists, then they should know that stuff happens. My friend says it's ridiculous of them to expect us to pay, and I should just stop replying to them because they're trying to push money off on me. But right now, I don't know if that would make me the jerk, and I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, holy crap, the original poster sounds incredibly entitled. Yes, in case you're wondering, you are absolutely the jerk. First of all, they put a lot of trust in you. Typically for things like this, they make you do a deposit, but they said, okay, you know what? We'll just have you pay cash on the day of, and that'll be fine. We'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Well, congratulations, because you probably ruined their trust in tourists altogether because you decided to be that person. And by the way, I don't know of any phone that needs reception just to tell the time. Like, you literally could have looked around at any clock on the wall or asked someone on the street, hey, do you know what time it is? And they probably would have shown you their phone and been like, oh, you're late, that's what time it is. Like, seriously, you're such a rude person for doing this. Not to mention the fact that you knew what time it was. You even confirmed the time when you came into town. Like, there is no good excuse here. So yes, you are the jerk, and I think you absolutely should pay for wasting their time, because the way you acted was completely unacceptable. My sister seems to think that just because I work from home, that must mean that I'm somehow free for childcare for her kids. Because right now she is constantly asking me to babysit her kids, even though I am literally on the clock. And at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I work full-time remote in a pretty demanding role, and my sister just had her third kid and she is completely overwhelmed. And trust me, I totally get that. 3 kids sounds like an actual nightmare, but she started asking me more and more to just watch the kids for a few hours during my workday. And she wants me to do this literally while I'm supposed to be working. It started small by her asking, hey, can you keep an eye on them while I take a shower real quick? But now it's escalated to her asking me to take them to the park. Or she'll say something like, can they just hang out with you for the afternoon? And when I say I can't, she throws out a guilt trip. She'll say stuff like, you're at home anyways. You just sit at a laptop all day. How hard is that? Well, last week I finally told her that I can't be the default childcare just because I work from home. She then got super cold and told our mom that I'm being selfish and that I don't understand what real responsibility is. Our mom thinks that I should help out more as a family since I don't have kids, and apparently that means I have unlimited free time. And now I feel incredibly guilty, but also really angry. I'm not choosing Netflix over her kids. I'm literally doing my job. So am I overreacting here? Because right now I don't know what to do. No, dude, your sister's being so weird. Just because you work from home doesn't mean you can babysit all the time. Like, that is so unbelievably toxic and so entitled. So no, you're not the jerk, your sister's being dumb, and I would just completely ignore that. Am I the jerk for leaving a job that my friend got me into? All because the job really sucks. Because right now I'm being guilt-tripped hard, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so my friend and her husband both work for an authorized retailer in mobile sales. They offered me a management position at one of their stores, and at first I was so excited. I mean, this was going to be my first management job. I was proud and ready to prove myself. But after the honeymoon phase wore off, I finally realized what I actually signed up for. The company pays the managers a salary, but it's not a real salary. If I miss a day, they take it out of my check. I work overtime every week and I don't get paid for it. A few weeks ago, my mom was vomiting blood. She's a heavy drinker and it really scared me. My dad wasn't doing anything, so I took her to the hospital and I missed 2 days of work. When I got my check, they deducted a few $100s. I also only have like one sales rep who shared between like 3 stores. I have an 18-month-old baby, so if anything happens and I need to call out, it's a massive deal and I still lose pay. There's zero work-life balance, and that's something I specifically asked about when I accepted the job. The group chats are also really toxic. People constantly post clips of others working and make comments about what they did wrong. It's embarrassing, and it just creates tension. Everyone complains about it, but the owner just simply doesn't care. Between the hours, the stress, and never seeing my kids, it's simply just not worth it. it. So today I put in my 2 weeks. After that, my friend texted me super upset, saying that she and her husband stuck their necks out for me. I've never argued with her before, so it really caught me off guard. I get being disappointed, but the way she said it made me feel like I owed her my peace and sanity. Ever since then, I've had calls from her husband, my manager, and even the president of the company, but nobody's actually addressing the bigger issue. It's like they just want to guilt trip me into staying. So now I'm wondering if I'm the jerk for quitting when the store only opened like 2 months ago, because at this point I really just don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, your friend and pretty much everybody at this job is super toxic and you do not owe them anything. Like, first of all, that sounds miserable, and the fact that they're not willing to be more flexible with you is like all you need to know. So no, in my opinion, you're not the jerk. You have every right to leave a job that's not serving you well, and from the sounds of it, this job sucks and you can do way better than this. My psycho entitled coworker literally breaks into my car after work, demanding that I give him a ride home, putting me in a position where I could finally shut this guy down. Here's what happened. I want to start off by saying that this happened a few years ago. I was working on an airbase in the Middle East, and all of the expatriate workers lived on a compound about 30 kilometers from work. The company laid on a bus to take people between work and the compound. Most of the people who'd been there for a while bought their own cars, so you could basically go off compound shopping, or more importantly, if you were let off work early, you could get out of there, which surprisingly happened fairly often, and that way you didn't have to wait for the bus to turn up. It also wasn't unknown on the back shift to finish at 8 o'clock, but the bus wasn't picking you up until past midnight. I had been there for a few years at this point, and I did have my own car. It was just this really basic car. No optional extras at all, no electric windows, central locking, absolutely nothing. In fact, I almost never locked it. Anyways, we had this one person working with us who, for the sake of the story, I'll call Dave. He had been there for years, but still wouldn't buy a car for some stupid reason. He also didn't like using the bus. When we were leaving work, he would just tag along with people and basically like beg for lifts back to the compound, and this generally just wasn't a problem. People gave each other lifts all the time. Maybe your car breaks down or you have to have it serviced every now and again. The attitude is that you would give lifts in hopes that you might need one yourself in return, but that was not the case with Dave. He was a one-way transaction. Petrol money just wasn't a real factor, and at the time, petrol was insanely cheap. I mean, you could fill your tank up with change in your car ashtray. I also have my family with me there, and trust me, this will become important shortly. One day, I'm a little late finishing up and I had a complex handover to do with the upcoming supervisor, and this really did take a little bit longer than usual. I then get to my car and lo and behold, there's Dave sitting in my passenger seat, and I'm thinking to myself, are you kidding? Like, seriously? I then get into the car and I ask Dave what he was doing in my car. He said to me,
"Oh, I need a lift back to the compound."
He had gotten into my unlocked car, sat in the passenger seat, and had not asked for a lift home, just expected me to give him one. Now, everyone else had gone home by now, and the day shift bus had already left. But there was one slight problem though. I wasn't going back to the compound. Back when this happened, my daughter wasn't in school yet, and it wasn't a nursery day. And for reference, she only went to nursery a couple of days a week. I was meeting my wife and daughter at a nearby mall. There was also a massive soft play complex, and they'd spend the day there. And basically, I was meeting them there. And then afterwards, we were going to get something to eat all before going home. I then point out to Dave that I'm not going back to the compound and that he needs to get out of my car. He then asked me, well, what am I meant to do? And at this point, I decided to put my foot down. I say to him, first of all, I'm going to meet my family for dinner. Secondly, this is not my problem. And third, if he would have just asked at any point through the day if he could have a lift, I would have told him that I wasn't going directly back to the compound. He then tells me that I need to take him back to the compound first and then go meet my family. But I tell him under no uncertain terms that it wasn't happening and that it is his problem to solve and not mine. He then ended up going back into work and waiting until someone left at like 8 o'clock, which was about like 5 hours later. Well, I then had a great time at the soft play with my family, and then we went to dinner and had a great time. But ever since that incident, he never got into someone else's car uninvited ever again. Okay, I don't care who you are. If my coworker like literally broke into my car and said, okay, where are we going? I think I would lose my mind. First of all, I completely understand the sentiment of like, okay, I can leave my car unlocked. This is not like a dangerous area. Like you can probably clock pretty quickly if this place is good or not. And you're like, okay, I get it. This is not a problem. We can just leave it unlocked and everybody's going to get along. So if my coworker broke into my car and sat there expecting a ride out of me, I think I would go absolutely crazy. Like that's so unbelievably inappropriate. It's not even funny. And yes, in my opinion, him getting into the car and waiting for you is absolutely breaking into the car. Whether it's locked or unlocked, I don't care. Stay out of my property. And the absolute gall of him to be like, oh yeah, you're gonna give me a ride. You need to drop me off at the compound first and then go to your family. It's like, no, you're gonna get out of my car before we have some problems. Like, what is going on right now? So good for you for shutting your coworker down. This sounds absolutely obnoxious, and I think you have way more patience than I do. Because if I was in this situation, I would be very pissed off. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled mom loses it on me at the restaurant I work at, all because I refused to give a kid extra fries for free, as she literally just didn't want to pay for it and tried to guilt trip me into giving free food to her kid, which has left me really baffled and very annoyed. Here's how it happened. Okay, to start things out, this literally happened yesterday at the fast food place that I work at. I'm on the register taking orders when a mom and her kid come up. The kid orders a kid's meal and I tell them the total. The mom then immediately interrupts and goes, "Wait, can you just give him a second order of fries? He'll share with his little brother, but I don't want to pay extra." Now, I politely tell her that each meal comes with its own fries, and any extras would have to be purchased separately. She then lets out a huff and leans over the counter. She says to me, "But he's a child. It's not fair to make kids pay extra for fries. Don't you have a heart?" I try to stay calm and explained again that the policy is the same for everyone, kids included. But then she raises her voice and calls me ridiculous and demands to see the manager. So the manager comes over and I explain the situation, and the mom storms off, muttering something about child discrimination. Meanwhile, her kid was happily munching on regular fries the entire time. So honestly, it was just so frustrating and ridiculous that I almost laughed after she left, because I just don't get how some parents think that the world owes their kids free snacks. Oh man, that's so weird. Seriously, like why would you walk into like, I don't know, McDonald's and be like, "Hey, can we get some free fries? This is a child, come on. Don't you have a heart?" And like if I was there, I would respond and be like, "I don't know, do you have a wallet?" Like, bro, this is not a charity. What are we talking about here? You're not gonna get free food just because you have a kid with you. So yeah, this sounds crazy. I would really be frustrated by this, and I don't blame you for getting upset either. A group of entitled tourists have their kid grab my cat as I'm simply trying to walk it down the streets in Iceland, putting me in a situation where I was forced to shut them down. Here's what I did. Okay, to preface this, I live in Iceland, and during this time I lived in downtown Reykjavik, and there are a lot of tourists in that area on a daily basis. A lot of them can be entitled and rude towards locals and kind of treat us like a zoo, or as if we're in the way somehow by being there and living our lives while they're just like posing for photos right in the middle of where people are walking or where cars are driving. Meanwhile, thousands of tourists are going to the beach that is closed off with a bunch of warning signs, some of them with flashing red lights to warn people from not going close to the water or going there at all, and them climbing over rocks to go past the fences that are there for safety just so they can pose in front of the water and put their life and their children's lives in danger, literally for no other reason than a photo opportunity. And sure, this is probably common in other places with lots of tourists, but I'm just trying to explain our point of view as people that live here and need to live our lives around this type of entitled behavior on an almost daily basis, especially when you live in downtown Reykjavik. During this day, I was walking my cat on a leash downtown, and we had been stopped multiple times by tourists asking if they can pet her, which I honestly don't mind, but I always just tell them to go ahead unless my cat clearly doesn't want to be pet. I always thank them for asking though, and for respecting my cat in that way. Well, needless to say, on this day, she wasn't really in the mood to be pet, especially after being stopped so many times. On our way back home, we're right at the bottom of Rainbow Street when I hear an American accent very closely behind me saying, "Are you gonna pet the kitty? Go ahead, pet the kitty." And it's in a way that they're clearly talking to a child. I turn around and I see a child walking ahead of their family and going for my cat. The child tries to grab my cat, but I step in between them and I say kindly no, and that my cat doesn't want to be pet right now. I move closer to the wall and I make room to let the family pass by us. We get a bit further up the street when the family slows down and we pass them. I have headphones on, but I have them only over one ear, so I'm still able to hear my surroundings. So it's at this moment I hear them again pushing their kid to go and pet my cat once they're behind me. Now I again kindly say no, and I make room to let them pass in front of us, but they simply won't go. They stay behind us and keep asking their kid, "Are you going to go pet the kitty?" Now at this point they followed us around for like 10 minutes, and I continuously had to tell them no and step between them and my cat, and I even picked her up periodically while we waited for them to leave. But I let her go down on the ground again because she wanted to walk herself since she knew the route home. We passed them once again after they stopped walking for no apparent reason, and it's here the kid runs up from behind and grabs my cat's tail, and she hisses at him and gives him warning scratches in the air. Now she didn't scratch him or bite him or anything like that, but she was giving very clear warning signs. I then once again stepped in between them, and I picked my cat up and I asked the parents, "Hey, can you get your stupid kid?" And once I said that, I then tell them to leave us alone and stop harassing us and following us. I told them that I gave them multiple opportunities to go ahead of us, but they kept on stopping for no reason, just to get behind us or to continue letting their kid grab my cat. So at this point, they're literally harassing us. Now the the parents didn't even try to deny harassing us or following us around, and the only thing that stuck with them is the fact that I swore in front of their kid. And yes, as you can probably guess, I didn't just call their kid stupid, which means they're now yelling at me for swearing, and they get in my face for some reason. I then simply said that I would not have had to swear if they had simply listened to me for the last 10 minutes, kindly telling them no, and asking them to leave us alone when I still had patience before they actually let their kid physically grab my cat's tail without doing anything to stop him. Now, I'm still holding my cat, so I just walk away, and I'm trying to hold my cat the rest of the walk home, which at this point is like maybe 5 more minutes. They luckily didn't follow us the rest of the way home, but I was fuming for the rest of the walk. We have been in situations where people get mad if I said my cat doesn't want to be pet that exact moment. People have even tried to pick my cat up without permission, and we have had things shouted at us, but this was another level of entitlement in my opinion compared to the people we had encountered before this. I didn't blow up at them or anything, so maybe this isn't juicy enough for some people or a satisfying ending or conclusion to the story, but this is what happened. I don't blame the kids since their parents were telling them to pet my cat, but I do blame the parents for clearly not respecting boundaries and for acting as if being told no doesn't apply to them. Just because you travel to other countries doesn't mean you don't have to respect the locals. And if you travel to Iceland, then here's a pro tip. Respect nature as well as the locals because we're getting so tired of entitled tourists that come here and don't show respect, whether that's to the people or pretty much anything around them. Oh man, if anybody touched my animal while I'm walking them, I would be also very pissed off. Seriously, dude, you don't touch other people's pets. That's messed up. Especially a cat on a leash, dude. That is kind of unusual in and of itself, and that is not gonna end well. So yeah, the original poster was in the right for screaming at them and being really pissed off, because if I was in their shoes, I would feel the same way. My job wrote me up after I was experiencing burnout, all because I lost 2 very close family members, and now my work is tanking, putting me in a situation that honestly I never thought I'd ever be in. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my field of work has high turnover and high burnout rate. As a result, my company promotes transparent conversations with staff members to ensure that we are all implementing self-care, taking PTO as needed, and asking for non-managerial support when overwhelmed with tasks. Well, last year, my work began to suffer. I was struggling after losing 2 close family members suddenly, and was transparent in hopes that they would understand why I was withdrawn and had lower productivity. Well, my manager wrote me up as a result of my burnout, citing that I was using our one-on-ones inappropriately, causing stress among the team with my grief, and talking about being burned out too much. The write-up included every single one-to-one documentation of when I asked for help with burnout, and management instructed me to stop talking about burnout altogether. And it's here that my malicious compliance came into effect because I thought to myself, no problem. I then stopped bringing up burnout, being transparent, and asking for support. About 2 months later, I request a 7-week leave of absence, citing extreme burnout and mental health issues. Well, management was shocked and angry that I did not tell them that I was struggling or burning out. I then handed them a copy of my write-up. I said to them, well, the action plan I received stated that I could not talk about burnout anymore. Management was then scolded for inadvertently creating a hostile work environment where staff couldn't ask for support. I then got 7 weeks off and partial pay, and they had to cover my job for that entire time that I was out. Okay, first off, I hope the original poster is feeling better, but also, wow, your job sucks. You mean to tell me these people are like, oh guys, if you're feeling burned out, be sure to talk to us about it. We really want to help. And then when you do that, they turn it against you and they're like, wow, your grief is really causing problems. It's like, dude, what do you want? Seriously, what do you want? This is so annoying. So hopefully the 7 weeks really helps you out because I can only imagine what you're going through, especially after realizing that your job literally betrayed you. That's crazy, and I know I would be very pissed off if I experienced that. My father-in-law seems to think that his guilt tripping will work in his favor when it comes to Christmas vacation, but in fact, I'm planning on using it against him as a form of petty revenge, because I am seriously tired of the way he's talking to me. Here's what's going on. So my father-in-law really wants us to come to their house this Christmas, but this year it will be difficult. My husband works in essence as a contractor job, so he doesn't get a lot of time off. If he took off too much time, he would lose full-time status and he would have to hope he'd get it back the next month. Because of this, he's probably only going to get 2 days off. We live 10 hours from our home state, so driving would really suck, and we'd spend at most a day from everyone. Flying is an option, but the shutdown has us nervous. We also have pets, and our usual sitter is going to be gone for the holidays, and we would have to find a new sitter and hope our pets like them as much as the usual sitter. Even with all these reasons, my father-in-law has been trying to guilt trip us to come. He said we had inadvertently made a tradition of coming up every certain amount of years. He's used to the sickly family members, which our reasonings were never about not wanting to see them. Also, why do we need a holiday to remember to value your loved ones? We could easily make a trip for January or February, and when all else fails, we use the mom card. My mother-in-law recently lost a family member and has been really down, and she wants everyone together for the holiday. We've even come up several times this year because we want to support her, and if the situation was different, we would have loved to come up for Christmas too. Sadly, it doesn't change our circumstances. We were also upset because my mother-in-law's struggles were never the reason until my father-in-law said it after weeks of talking about Christmas plans. Now, I was pretty upset to hear that my father-in-law was trying to guilt trip us in this way, but then I got a bright idea. Since he wants us to spend time with friends and family, then we'll do just that. We are now making plans to visit everyone that we don't get to see. His family will still get time with us, but we refuse to let my father-in-law dictate our time. We plan to rent a car because I can already foresee my father-in-law making excuses for why we can't use their car. Tomorrow, we're supposed to talk about booking flights, and I plan to tell my father-in-law, you know what, this works out after all because we can now see everyone that we haven't seen in a long time. And I just can't wait to hear the tone in his voice when he realizes we aren't planning to spend every waking moment with only him. Okay, I love this petty revenge because you are literally taking what he said and you're running with it way further than what he expected. Because the second he tries to complain and be like, oh, well, wait a second, what about us? You can then throw it right back at him, and that is so funny to me. So good for you because I think this is a solid plan. Am I the jerk for not allowing the return of a car that I sold to my partner's coworker that now all of a sudden had broken down despite the fact that we explained that probably would happen? Because right now they are pissed off and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, I sold a vehicle to one of my partner's coworkers. We were very clear that a lot of work had to be done on the car and that although at this time we knew of nothing wrong with the vehicle, we were selling it because we didn't want to deal with it anymore. This was repeated to them several times. We said to them, we don't know if anything wrong, but we do not trust it. After a test drive, the coworker was confident that they wanted it. So we wrote up a bill of sale stating the terms of the sale. $3,000 total paid in installments of $200 per month. We also sent a statement that said that this sale is final and the vehicle is sold as is, with no warranties or guarantees expressed or implied. The seller and buyer then signed the bill of sale, and just so I can make the registration and insurance process easier for her, I signed over the title. Now, that was 6 weeks ago. Fast forward to now, and the vehicle is broken down. There's apparently been internal catastrophic failure and it needs a new engine, with the crankshaft and the bearings being completely out. She's now asking that we take the car back and donate it or just send it to the junkyard. They can just sign it back over and we can do what we want with it. And by the way, it's currently about 2 hours from where we live. Now, I really do not feel it's my responsibility to fix this problem for her, but I do feel really bad it broke down. And at this point, she's now accusing my partner of taking advantage of her and saying that we never told her anything could be wrong with it. This car, by the way, has been a pain in my side since I purchased it for about $10,000 in 2020. It has had several mechanical issues that we have fixed. All in all, probably putting in around like $5,000 into the vehicle, and a lot of that was very recently. And trust me, there's a long list of things that we've had to like replace on this car, namely the alternator, the drive belt, the brake pads and rotors. We had to fix the oil pressure sensor, and trust me, the list goes on and on. Also, there was a fix done by our original dealership after Jiffy Lube failed to put oil back in the car after an oil change. Now again, we were absolutely transparent about all of this, and that we hoped nothing would go wrong but couldn't promise anything. So am I the jerk for refusing to allow her to return the now broken car that I sold that was in working condition that is now hours away from my home? I mean, is there any idea for a compromise? I can't afford to give away thousands of dollars, but I've been in hard situations with cars before, and I know what it feels like. What should I do? Okay, maybe I'm the jerk here, but no, you are not the jerk. I think you are well within your right to be like, sorry, I can't help you, and yes, you still have to pay for it. Like, I'm sorry, you signed the dotted line, and the second you try to accuse my partner of like taking advantage of them, when you very clearly said, hey, this thing like probably will fail you, and we're not sure if it works, but you're buying it as is. Like at that point, that's your own problem and nobody else's. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think you absolutely have no obligation to this person, because if this car broke down, that is literally their problem and not yours. Am I the jerk for asking my sister to return the money I loaned her after she bought concert tickets instead of paying me back? Because right now I'm still very pissed off and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so a few months ago, my younger sister asked to borrow $400 to cover her car insurance, saying that she was short that month. Now, I agreed because she is family, and I figured that she would pay me back once she got her next paycheck. Well, 2 months went by and I still got nothing from her. I then gently reminded her and she said that she'd get me next time. Well, last week she posted on Instagram that she got got VIP tickets to see her favorite band, and the tickets are well over $300. I commented half-jokingly by saying, well, I guess you can pay me back now. She then deleted my comment and texted me saying that I embarrassed her. I then told her it's not about embarrassment, but it's about priorities. She then called me obsessed with money and said that family shouldn't treat others like debt collectors. I then told her that if she had money for concerts, she should have money to pay her debts back. My mom got involved and said that I'm being cold-hearted and that I should drop it because it's only money. But here's the thing, it's not even about the $400 anymore. For me, it's about the blatant disrespect. So am I the jerk for wanting my sister to pay me back? Because right now, everybody is really pissed off at me. No, you're not the jerk at all. If you're gonna ask someone for money and be like, oh, this is a loan, I need it for my car insurance, then you absolutely should be expected to pay it back. So no, this is not a bad thing to ask. I think you did the right thing by even saying something. And the fact that she's trying to be like, wow, you're obsessed with money. Like, that would be the last time I ever give her money in the first place, because like, that's a terrible attitude to have, and I can absolutely see her doing this again. An entitled teenager egged my house after I told him to get off my property. So I decided to get some petty revenge by printing out his MySpace page and sending it to his parents and the school principal, resulting in him getting expelled for doing illegal things online. Here's what happened. Okay, so some years ago, I lived directly across the street from the local high school, and every day during lunch, kids would stream across my lawn on their way to a nearby strip mall. One day, I'm getting home right at that time, and this boy, who's maybe like 16 years old, was digging holes in my yard with a big stick. I then told him to cut it out and get lost. He then chirped back at me and we had a bit of a back and forth, and then he went on his way. Well, a few days later, my house and car got egged. The idiot did it on a night it was raining, so there wasn't really any damage, just some eggshells on the driveway, but still, my honor required vengeance. Now, by the way, this was back in the day with MySpace, where everyone between the ages of 14 and 22 had a public MySpace page. Now, I knew from my interactions with him that he was a burnout raver type kid. He had longer hair, baggy clothes, etc. So I clicked around through profiles until I found the burnouts, and then methodically clicked through the connections until I found him. And bingo, right on his profile, he had pictures of him smoking the spicy grass, drinking straight from a bottle in the passenger seat of a car, and arranging some substance deals on his public page. And in one such thread, he had given out his home phone number to someone, and I looked it up on a reverse white page site and paid like $15 to get his parents' home address. I then printed literally everything off his MySpace page, and I mailed it to his parents, the school principal, and the school resource officer. Well, a few days later, one of his friends posted on MySpace asking where this guy was. This kid then replies and says, oh, some jerk printed out my MySpace page and sent it over to my parents and the principal. I got expelled and I'm grounded for the rest of the year. And at the time, all I could do was laugh. So to the kid who egged my house, I really hope you turned your life around. You were in some pretty deep crap for a high school kid, and hopefully things worked out in the end. Okay, I love this so much because, man, this is one of those situations where it's like, yeah, this is clearly a troubled teen who absolutely needs a reality check. It's one thing to be annoying and to be like just, I don't know, a normal teenager, but it's another thing to go around vandalizing and doing crap like this on a public profile. Like, this kid's an idiot for even instigating that and even like having that on his MySpace page. Like, it doesn't take common sense to be like, hey, maybe I shouldn't do this, you know, in the public. So good for you for getting revenge, because this kid absolutely deserved it. Today, I found my husband's secret second phone that he had been using to cheat on me with other women, putting me in a situation where I honestly don't know what to do for me or my newborn baby. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that we've been together for almost 12 years and married for almost 10. I'm currently 7 months postpartum, and I've been struggling with postpartum depression and anxiety since I had my wonderful baby boy in March. I see my therapist weekly and a psychiatrist often for medications. It hasn't been an easy battle, and I know it's taken a toll on my little family, but I've really been trying and I was getting better. My husband, let's call him Jack for the sake of the story, has been very supportive, but his work schedule moved him to the night shift, so we barely see each other except for like a few hours on the weekends. He tends to keep the same sleep schedule those days, so I end up sleeping on the couch while he stays awake in the living room just to be close because I miss him. Well, fast forward to yesterday and I was looking for his car keys to move the car, and as I was looking in his work bag, I found his old phone. Well, I immediately felt my stomach drop because I thought he got rid of it, and when I inspected it, it was fully charged, so it had been used pretty recently. I then went to him and I woke him up, and I had him unlock the phone for me. Now, he swore there was nothing on it, and he was just trying to download pictures off of it to his laptop. But guess what? He absolutely lied. There was a second Reddit account and email account that had messages, posts, and comments, all being incredibly sketchy and flirty towards other women. I messed up and I locked the phone when he tried to take it, so I don't know the PIN code to get back into it to take screenshots. screenshots. And on top of that, he refuses to give it to me. When I ran out of the room, he deleted the Reddit account and the email account. And at this point, I'm honestly sick to my stomach. I don't know where to go from here. I quit my job because he wanted me to be a stay-at-home mom. I'm a homebody with pretty much no friends. And to make things harder, his family lives with us. What should I do? Before we go any further or even dive into this, the original poster has an update. Here's what they had to say. Okay, I want to start off by saying that he came clean, and he told me he had been sending these messages to 10 different people over the span of a month or two, and he also admitted to doing this 4 years ago. And yes, this was all through his primary and secondary Reddit account. He then said he wants to fix this and will do whatever it takes to do so, and at this point I'm at such a loss. I feel so broken. I told his mother, and she's on my side, and said it's my choice on what happens next and not his. Ever since then, I've requested to see my therapist twice this week, and I'm gonna continue to do so going forward until I can come up for air. I am still trying to figure out what is best for me and my baby boy, and I have been applying to jobs all day as well just to establish my independence once again, because this whole scenario is absolutely devastating. Okay, I cannot imagine going through that. Seriously, here you are literally just having a kid, and then you find out your husband's been cheating on you. And yeah, by the way, that's absolutely cheating what he did. I don't care what the medium was, like this is absolutely not okay. So truly, I hope this works out for you and you're able to find some like solutions in your life, because this is devastating and I honestly cannot imagine going through this. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not wanting to split gas money with my friend when I was the one who was literally driving her car when we went on a beach trip? Here's what happened. Okay, so this is one of those situations where I feel insane for thinking I'm right, but everyone keeps making me doubt myself. My car's been in the shop for like a week, so when my friend, who I will call Leslie, suggested a little day trip to the beach, she offered to use her car if I did all the driving. Now, I was like, cool, I don't mind driving, and she already hates highways, so this is kind of a win-win. We did the trip, I drove the whole way there and back, about 3 hours in total. I paid for parking, the tolls, the snacks, and dealt with the usual road trip chaos. When we got back, I even filled up her tank as a nice thing because, you know, I used her car and it felt like the polite thing to do. Well, cut to the next day and she texts me saying that we should split gas money evenly since it's only fair. Now, I literally paid for the full tank already, and I reminded her of that, and she said that was just replacing what I used, and that technically she paid for the gas that was in the tank when we left, so I still owe her for that portion. Now, I thought she was joking, but no, she really was not joking. I told her I wasn't paying more because I already covered everything and I did all the driving. But she said I was being petty over like $10 and that apparently it's the principle of the matter. I said to her, yeah, it is the principle. I mean, I drove her car for her and she didn't spend a cent on any of the gas. And now things are kind of weird between us. Plus, another mutual friend said that I should have just paid to avoid the drama. But like, am I missing something here? So seriously, am I the jerk for thinking this is ridiculous? Or should I have just paid her more money and gotten this over with? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna say this straight up. Your friend's an idiot. She really is trying to be like, we need to split the gas. But it's like, dude, okay, you're gonna pay me back for the money that I spent on the gas? Like, what is she talking about? Oh, you just replaced what you already used. It's like, dude, you're an idiot. That literally doesn't make any sense. Like, what is she talking about? Like, if she really wants to split the gas money, then sure, give me the money because I'm the one that drove up and back and did all this work and paid for a full tank when I got back. And now she's asking for more money? Like, dude, I'm sorry, that doesn't make any sense. So no, she is absolutely being ridiculous, and anybody who agrees with her is also really dumb because what she's asking literally just doesn't make any sense. An entitled customer brings in a coupon that literally is not from our store, saying that if we don't accept this coupon, she is gonna get me fired, putting me in a situation that honestly I never thought I'd ever be in. Here's what happened. I work at a home goods store, and today a customer came in with a coupon so old, it was literally yellowing and falling apart at the creases. It was for 50% off any single item, but it was from a store that went out of business over 20 years ago. I then politely informed her that we couldn't accept a coupon from a different and long defunct company. Well, when I said that, she immediately escalated, her voice getting louder with each word, with her saying, "It says any single item. It doesn't specify where. This is false advertising. I want to speak to your manager right now." I then called for my manager, who we will call Linda, who is an absolute saint, by the way, and has been in retail ever since this coupon was printed. Linda came over, looked at the coupon, and gave the customer the exact same explanation that I did. But when she did it with a calm smile. The customer then pointed a finger at me and said, "Well, she was incredibly rude to me about it. I want her written up. I'm going going to be calling corporate to have her fired for this." My manager then just nodded and said, "Ma'am, I was standing right over there and I heard the entire interaction. My employee was perfectly professional and correct in our policy. I will not be writing her up and you are very welcome to call corporate if you want to." Well, the customer was so stunned and she was speechless when Linda said that. She just snatched her ancient coupon off the counter, crumpled it in her fist, and stormed out without another word. And this whole thing was so absurd it was almost poetic. But it's really amazing how some people think that threatening your job is somehow a valid negotiation tactic for a 25-year-old piece of paper. Wow, imagine being so entitled and so dumb that you bring in not only the wrong coupon to the wrong store, but also say you're gonna get someone fired if you don't get what you want. Like, oh my gosh, that is crazy. Because this Karen was very clearly in the wrong, and the fact that she refused to see that is incredibly alarming. Am I overreacting by refusing to give up my honeymoon dates? All because my sister-in-law decided to book her wedding date for the same week. Because right now I'm being blamed for like trying to turn the family against her, and at this point I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so my husband and I have had our honeymoon booked for like 8 months. We're talking flights, hotels, literally everything. It's the first real vacation we planned together, and we're leaving the Monday after our 1-year anniversary. Well, last week his sister announced that she's getting married, and she chose the same weekend that we leave. When my husband pointed that out, she said, "Oh, I didn't realize, but it would mean so much if you postponed your trip. I mean, family comes first after all." Now, here's the thing. We've already paid thousands of dollars. The hotel is non-refundable, and my time off at work was approved months ago. I told her gently that we can't change it, and it's at this point that she got quiet. Then she started a group chat with the family saying that we're ditching her wedding for a vacation. And now because of this, his parents are calling me selfish and saying that I'm trying to sabotage her big day. My husband is even caught up in the middle of this and asked that I just move the trip a few days later just so we could try and keep the peace. But when he said this, I said no, it's not my fault she picked the same week, especially when she knew about our plans for months in advance. So now apparently I'm the reason she's crying every night and turning the family against her, which is just absolutely insane. So seriously, am I overreacting by refusing to postpone anything? Because this is honestly so frustrating and I just don't know what to do. No, there's no way you're the jerk here. Your sister-in-law's being really stupid. Especially with the fact that they knew you're going on vacation and are still trying to act like, "Oh, I guess you're just gonna have to change it." Like, if anything, it kind of seems like she did this on purpose just to try and like ruin your honeymoon. But regardless, no, you're not the jerk here. You didn't overreact by refusing to give in to these stupid demands. And the fact that anyone would even entertain that after knowing how much money you spent, in my opinion, is just completely insane. My coworker freaked out and publicly yelled at me after I was just trying to help him out with his job. And now I feel like I'm at an impasse with this guy and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so I work at a small wine bar where at most we have like 4 people staff per shift. Tonight it was just me and one other guy who started at the same time as me about 6 weeks ago. During the shift, I started noticing a few things that would later get him in trouble, or at least like actively making it harder to work with him as the only 2 staff in a small space. Now for 2 very potent things, I tried correcting with something along the lines of, "Hey, heads up, the managers are cracking down on X and they really want you to do Y," or something like that. But with the second thing that I brought up, he absolutely flipped out on me. This guy is 6 foot tall and I'm only 5'3", and he got right up in my face pointing a finger and said in a raised voice that if managers wanted him to do something differently, then they could tell him themselves. He then said that I'm not in charge of him and have no right to tell him how to do his job. He then went on to say that when he is serving the customer, it's his decision how to handle it, and that I just need to deal with it because what he says goes with how he wants to deal with these things. And by the way, he did this at the bar in front of customers. It was intimidating, demoralizing, and utterly humiliating. The rest of the shift, we basically avoided each other until he cut his shift early because it was slow, which I only found out about as he was putting on his jacket. Now, I'm not a snitch, but he is genuinely not good at his job, other than maybe talking to people and pouring wine, which is, by the way, the easy and fun part of the job. So I'm sure it'll catch up to him eventually. We work again, just the 2 of us in a week, and honestly, this really should be interesting because at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, in my opinion, there is absolutely no reason for that guy to get in your face like that. Like that, in my opinion, is absolutely not okay. This isn't some kind of like small disagreement. This guy's getting in your face, he's pointing his finger, he's raising his voice in front of customers. Like that's inappropriate and that's very, very unprofessional. So if I was in your shoes, I would absolutely be singing like a songbird to HR or some kind of like management, because this kind of behavior absolutely should not go unpunished. And in my opinion, I would never want to work with him one-on-one ever again, because this behavior is scary and you should not have to deal with that. My boyfriend said that he went to the zoo with a male friend, but right now I'm starting to feel like he might be lying to me. And at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, I've been dating my boyfriend for about 6 months now, and I really would just like some outside opinions on something that's really been bothering me. My boyfriend told me that he went to the zoo with a male friend on Tuesday. He has a flexible work schedule and sometimes gets weekdays off, so that part isn't unusual in and of itself. But I'm not sure if this friend can always take weekdays off, which makes me wonder just a little bit. That night we talked on the phone and nothing he said was obviously a lie, but his tone and energy just felt really different. He was quieter and flatter than usual. Normally when he hangs out with friends, he's excited to tell me about it. Like he'll sound animated about the things that they did and share details on his own. But this time, he only answered what I specifically asked for, and his answer sounded a bit hesitant. For example, when I asked him, okay, well, what did you see at the zoo? At first he said, oh, we saw animals. And then he paused and started listing some things like penguins and crocodiles. When I asked him, okay, well, what did you eat? He said, a sandwich and pasta. And also, when I asked him, okay, well, what time did you eat? He looked up for a second like he was trying to think, and then he said, 5 o'clock. Now, he did show me a few pictures from the zoo, so I believe he really went there, but I'm not entirely sure if he actually went with that friend, since he only used we when talking about the day and never mentioned the friend directly. He also didn't seem very enthusiastic when describing what they did, and I'm still just not even sure if that friend is even able to take a weekday off. I know I might be overthinking, but part of the reason I feel so uneasy is because of something that happened in the past. Even after we became official, he was still texting someone that he had gone on a date with before me, and that situation almost caused us to break up. We are rebuilding trust now, but ever since then, I've been a little more sensitive to changes in his tone and behavior. We're seeing each other this weekend, and I'd like to just casually ask him more about that day, especially about his friend, but I don't want to sound jealous or accusatory. It's been a few days since the zoo trip, and I'm just not sure how to bring it up this weekend. So seriously, how can I talk about this in a natural and light way that doesn't make him defensive, but also still helps me get a sense of whether he's being honest or not? What should I do? Okay, someone in the comment section literally said what I was thinking because like, dude, what are you talking about? What do you mean you're 6 months in and you're already rebuilding trust? Like, dude, what's happening right now? Like, I'm not saying break up with a guy, but that is like a big red flag if you're already having issues with him talking to other women. So honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would just ask him directly. I would express these concerns and be like, hey, you're kind of being weird here and I need to know more details. And that might even go as far as being like, okay, which friend specifically did you go to the zoo with? Because if this guy's already like talking to other women this early into your relationship, then there's a good chance he didn't go to the zoo with a friend, but instead like a secret girlfriend. And honestly, if you're 6 months into a relationship and you're still trying to like rebuild trust, then I wouldn't put this past him. Because regardless, this sounds like a massive hassle and a way bigger headache than I would ever be willing to put up with. Am I the jerk for asking my roommate to stop using my new high-end cookware, all because she doesn't believe in non-stick and instead basically ruin my stuff? Because right now she's giving me the cold shoulder, and at this point I'm just super annoyed. Here's what's going on. My roommate and I have lived together for 3 years, and in general we have a great relationship. We mostly have our own kitchen things, but we're flexible and we share the basics. Last week I splurged on a really expensive set of ceramic non-stick pots and pans, and I mean a serious investment, the kind that you have to baby and really take care of. I then told my roommate about them, and I specifically mentioned the care instructions. No metal utensils, low to medium heat only, and wash it with a soft sponge. Well, the next day, I come home to find my roommate scrubbing one of my new skillets with a rough side of a green scour pad, and then trying to flip an egg with a metal fork. And when I freak out on her, she got defensive. She said, and I quote, "I don't believe in non-stick. I think it's all marketing. I cook everything on high heat, and I use steel wool on my pans to get it really clean." Well, after that, I told her that she absolutely could not use my pans anymore because she's actively ruining them. When I said that, she got mad, saying it's ridiculous for me to buy something so fragile and that I'm being elitist and hoarding shared kitchen space. She says it's a shared kitchen and I'm treating it like a museum, and now she's giving me the cold shoulder. So am I the jerk for like setting a hard boundary on my personal, expensive, and fragile items in a shared space, even if she thinks my rules are silly? Because right now I'm very pissed off. Okay, this is really dumb. Your roommate is completely entitled and so at fault here. You spelled out perfectly what she can and cannot do on your cookware, and instead of listening to you and actually hearing what you had to say, she decided to get defensive and be like, no, this is actually your fault. Stop treating the kitchen like a museum, please. And like, dude, what are you talking about? Take care of my crap. If you're gonna use my property, at least have the decency of being careful with it. And I think what you're asking for is not out of line. Like, she basically just ruined one of your skillets. Like, that is completely unfair. So no, you're not the jerk. You absolutely didn't do anything wrong. And And I think your roommate's a piece of garbage for doing what she did. Like, that was really uncalled for and completely inappropriate. Am I the jerk for asking my roommate's boyfriend to pay a portion of our rent after he has essentially moved into our apartment? Because right now my roommate is pissed that I asked this of him. And at this point, I don't know if I made a mistake or not because this is a really messy situation. Here's what's going on. So to start things out, I'm a 24-year-old female and I share an off-campus apartment with my roommate who I will call May for the sake of the story. We signed the lease together a few months ago and everything was fine at first. We split the rent and utilities evenly and agreed on basic boundaries, like no overnight guests for like more than a couple nights a week. About a month into the semester, her boyfriend, who I will call Jake, started staying over a lot. And we're talking like every single night. He cooks here, he showers here, he uses our Wi-Fi, he does his laundry, etc. He even keeps clothes and toiletries here now. Basically, he lives here without being on the lease. Now, at first, I didn't want to cause any drama, so I said nothing, but the utilities bill went up and he eats my groceries sometimes. And I feel like I've just completely lost my privacy. When I brought it up, she just brushed me off and said, "You would do the same if you had a boyfriend." So I finally told her that I'm not comfortable paying half the rent when there's clearly a third person living here. I said if he's staying here full time, then he should be contributing. And when I said this, my roommate flipped out. May said that I was being petty and jealous and told me that I was making things awkward for no reason. Well, I then told her that either Jake helps with rent and bills or he stops staying here all the time. And now because of this, she's giving me the cold shoulder and told our mutual friends that I'm trying to kick her boyfriend out. For what it's worth, I don't care if he visits. I just don't want to subsidize him living here when our agreement was just her and me. What should I do? Okay, I think you have a solid point here. Like, this guy has basically moved in. He's here all the time. He's cooking and cleaning and doing laundry there. He's keeping his clothing and toiletries there as well. Like, dude, this guy's basically another roommate. So I don't blame you for being like, wait a second, why are we not splitting this into thirds instead of like splitting it in half? Especially if the utilities are going up. Like, why are you paying more just because he's staying here? And you know for a fact, if you were the one with a boyfriend staying over all the time, May would probably also be getting pissed off and be like, wait a second, what's going on here? This is not fair. So no, you're not the jerk. And in my opinion, I think you're being completely reasonable. Am I the jerk for refusing to cut my hair for my sister's engagement party? As she literally said that I'll be banned from the party altogether if I don't get a haircut. And right now I'm honestly really frustrated and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my sister told me over lunch that I would be uninvited to her engagement party if I didn't get a haircut. And for a bit of backstory, I'm an 18-year-old male and my sister's 22 years old, and I do have a very complicated relationship with my hair. A few years ago, I was going through a very difficult time and I would completely shave my head every other week or so. I won't get into the details of that, but to make a long story short, things got better for me and I started to grow my hair out again. Ever since I did, I constantly get asked by my family when I would be getting a haircut, and I usually just shrug them off and I tell them that I don't want to. Questions slowly turned into rude remarks and insults, but I always tried to ignore them because I told myself that they couldn't have known this was a difficult topic for me. My sister has been planning her engagement party for a few months now, and the demands to get a haircut have increased significantly. It's become the only thing that we talk about. I started to get a little frustrated, and anytime someone asked me about it, I would give them very firm answers and ask them to stop. At one point, I had an argument with my mom about this, and I opened up to her and explained why I didn't want to cut my hair, and you know what? She stopped bothering me about it, and it made me so happy. Well, today I was talking with my sister at lunch when she brought it up again. She looked at me and said, "Oh, about your hair. Are you gonna come to my engagement party looking like that?" I stared at her for a second in disbelief and I asked, "Are you serious?" She then said to me, "Oh, you're not coming then." Now, obviously, I was extremely hurt by this, but I didn't want things to escalate, so I simply told her fine, and I tried to keep eating my food without crying. She then kept berating me for a good 10 minutes and telling my mom to say something, but I just sat there in silence trying to ignore her. Her reasoning was that she didn't want me to embarrass her in front of her fiance's family because according to her, I looked like a junkie, and she literally did not want to be associated with me. I could not take her screaming at me anymore, so I went right to my room. A few minutes pass and I overhear my sister talking about me in the living room, telling my mom to stop feeding into my delusions. But at this point, I fully lost my mind. I barged into the living room and I told her that if she has an issue with me, she can say it right to my face. It then turned into this awful screaming match with her repeatedly saying that she doesn't care and that she can do whatever she wants. My mom eventually gave me a look and said, "Oh, she's mad at you because she cares about you and wants you to come to the engagement party." And that's right where things ended. At this point, I feel like I should just be the bigger person and cut my hair, but I know that it would make me extremely unhappy. It just feels like this has been blown so far out of proportion and I just don't know how to deal with it. What should I do? Okay, first of all, if you're cleaning yourself and like you're washing your hair and your body and you're keeping things neat and tidy, then in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you absolutely have every right to have long hair if that's what you want to do. So no, you would not be the jerk for refusing to cut your hair. Like, your sister's rationale behind all of this is so stupid. Like, she's trying to spin this against you in some way where it's like, okay, what's going on right now? Like, her entire rationale behind you cutting your hair is so that you don't look a certain way in front of her in-laws. And it's like, dude, your sister's a terrible person. Why would you even say that? Because I guarantee you the fiance's family's not going to think that. They're going to see the original poster and be like, oh cool, a guy with long hair. Anyways, what's going on at the engagement party? They're not going to sit around and be like, oh my god, he's a junkie. He does all kinds of substances. I just know it. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? There are so many men out there that have long hair and they have it clean and well kept, and it just looks completely normal. Like, what's going on? So no, you absolutely don't have to cut your hair. The way your sister's acting is crazy in my opinion, and it honestly just seems like she's using this engagement party as some kind of like control point to try and force you to cut your hair. That's crazy, that's absolutely uncalled for, and you do not have to go along with it, regardless of whatever hypothetical consequences she comes up with. My psycho future mother-in-law tried to fight my fiance in the hallway, all because we were going on vacation to visit my grandparents. Things got so bad that she even called the cops and lied to them, saying that I broke her thumb as she was trying to attack my fiance, putting me in a situation that honestly has me fearing for my life because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that it's been a very long month. My fiance's grandparents both had pretty scary falls in the last month, and we've all been taking turns taking 250-mile trips down to help and visit them, and it's honestly been very stressful. Next month, my fiance and I have a trip planned to go out of the country for a week to see my grandparents, who are older by the way, and I haven't seen them in years due to them being out of the country. The plan was to have my fiance's 17-year-old brother take care of our pets while we were gone, and they both knew about this and agreed to do this. Well, last night, my future mother-in-law realized that if we're out of the country, then they can't take a 3-day trip to visit my mother-in-law's parents. And according to my mother-in-law, leaving the kid brother by himself for 3 days is a hard no. So she announced that she was going to board the dogs. My fiance took exception to this because our older dog is terrified of everyone outside the household, and our younger dog is really bad at reading aggressive body language and will actively try to play with dogs that would tear her apart. This started an argument between my fiance and mother-in-law, where my mother-in-law accused my fiance of not caring about her own grandparents. Things got really heated, but I convinced my fiance to retreat with me into our room. Things seemed to cool down for a bit, but when I ran downstairs to grab my fiance's Nintendo Switch, just so we could hide out at my apartment, my mother-in-law was still ranting, saying that she wished she never had my fiance, how she was mad at the kid brother for attempting to bail from the argument and accused him of siding with them, and was saying some of the most unhinged stuff imaginable. I tried to gently defend my fiance because frankly, she's put her whole life on hold for a decade to support her mom and brother, but she just kept yelling, "Your fiance is not my daughter." Eventually, my fiance got sick of hearing things and started yelling back at her mom. My mother-in-law called her the B word, my fiance returned the sentiment, and at this point, my mother-in-law yelled that I should control my stupid B word because my mother-in-law is going to punch her in her stupid face. My mother-in-law went back to her room still yelling, with my fiance yelling right back at her. I tried to convince my mother-in-law that my fiance and I had been hiding for almost an hour while she was still ranting and that we weren't the ones pushing the argument. Eventually, she snapped and yelled, "I'm gonna get that idiot," and attempted to sprint past me down the hallway. I interceded and I stood between her and my fiance. My mother-in-law pushed and shoved and tried to squeeze past in the hallway, and she nearly made it too, but I picked her up and I put her down on the other side of me. She then announced that she was going to call 911, which I invited since no violence occurred. So she called the cops and yelled at the operator on speakerphone, demanding that someone get out there because her daughter was verbally mistreating her, and it's here that we could hear the operator was getting frustrated with her. Eventually she hung up, and minutes later the cops showed up. Now thankfully I knew one of them from work, and I explained everything that I typed out above. My mother-in-law talked to his partner outside, and apparently my fiance, who was hiding under her bed, was watching on the Ring camera and watched her mom straight up lie to the cops. They advised us that since no one was injured, even though my mother-in-law claimed that I broke her thumb, which definitely didn't happen, he said that we should try to avoid each other and let things settle. After they left, my fiance and I hid in our room, while my mother-in-law texted her about how I'm an evil danger to the whole family, because apparently yesterday I broke her thumb, and now she's texting my fiance saying that I beat her up in the hallway, which definitely didn't happen. But truly, I'm so heartbroken over this entire thing. I've been with my fiance since high school. I clean the house, I do all the chores. I mean, I'm the designated driver. I fix the cars, I fix the computers. I help the little brother with his homework. I've given so much of myself to this whole family. I help the mother-in-law with her extremely evil ex as well. They even frequently comment that I'm too nice because I always stop to help anyone if I'm in a position to help out. But apparently now to my mother-in-law, I'm an evil jerk who's unsafe to be around, all because I wouldn't let her hit her daughter. I mean, honestly, my life is so messed up right now. My fiance says that I should have just let her mom punch her in the face because then she says we could just go back to everything being normal. Okay, holy crap, you guys have a weird definition of normal. This is not normal. Nothing about this interaction was normal at all. Your mother-in-law literally tried to fight your fiance all because you guys were trying to go out of the country to visit your grandparents. Like, holy crap, imagine being that crazy and that hot-headed that you blow up over something like that. Like, seriously, that is crazy. That's absolutely crazy in my opinion. So for me, I know for a fact if I was in this situation and I lived under these settings, I would be moving out so fast it's not even funny. I'm talking like tonight I'd pack it up and I'd get out. I would put stuff in a storage container and figure it out from there. Because look at the escalation of things, dude. This lady's a narcissist. She literally tried to be like, you broke my thumb. And now she's like, oh, he beat me up in the hallway. Like she's clearly capable of making things up just to try and ruin your life. Who knows what else she's gonna claim in the future? Like, holy crap. So yeah, I would be getting away from this lady as fast as possible because she sounds like a complete psychopath. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My serving job was one of the most toxic environments I've ever worked in my entire life, as my manager and trainers were constantly saying terrible things about me behind my back while also refusing to train me properly. And I am so glad I got out of that place because it was an absolute nightmare. Here's what happened. Okay, so I worked as a server at a retirement home about a year ago, and I've got to be honest, I really hated it. After the third day training period, I found it was terrible that anytime I tried asking a question, from the other coworker who trained me, they would always get mad at me and be like, I already showed you that. It was complete garbage how anytime I wanted to ask a question about anything, they'd get mad and think that I wasn't listening or just refuse to do any work. And when I tried to tell another coworker 3 weeks in about what another coworker was saying about me behind my back, he said he thought that what they said was valid as he believed I wasn't taking enough initiative. He said that he would leave tasks unfinished to see if I would do them, and I thought that was annoying as I wasn't even sure what the task was that he was talking about. And at that point, it felt annoying that I wasn't getting enough communication on what jobs they wanted me to do. I asked for a checklist of what to do. I tried to follow everything that he wrote down, and it still felt like there wasn't much else to do. Even when others would mess up a task or got things wrong, I never called them out on it, and I would just fix things myself. I would ask them all the time. Whenever it felt like there was nothing to do, I would say, okay, what else needs to be done? And most of the time, they'd answer and then tell me what to do. I also didn't know what else I could do to try and make things right. I mean, I'd try to follow whatever was written down by my coworker, or I would just ask what else there was left to do, but it never felt like enough. It always felt like they changed things every week about what we needed to do, and I felt like I could never keep up. I eventually left that job after a few months, and when I was looking at other jobs a few months ago, I saw that they had another posting online. In this one, they upped the requirements where they wanted 6 months of experience in dining, but I've truly never been to a place where the working environment felt so toxic and stupid than the time I was a server working with these idiots. Okay, honestly, I resonate with this so much it's not even funny. Like, I've had coworkers like this who are like, oh, you're not doing enough. You're not doing your job. And it's like, okay, what is my job? Like, literally show me what I need to do and I'll get it done. And then they literally list off all the things that you've already done, and yet they still have the gall to be like, oh, you're not doing enough. Not to mention them talking about you behind your back. Like, that drives me insane. Like, seriously, dude, if you got something to say, just say it to me. We can hash it out, we can figure it out, and probably find some kind of common ground. But don't say stuff behind my back as if I've done anything to you, because chances are I probably haven't. So yeah, this entire situation kind of rings true, and I've definitely experienced this, and I know exactly what you're talking about. Am I overreacting for refusing to host my sister's bridal shower after she said that mine was tacky and has constantly made nasty comments about it even 2 years later? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so when I got married 2 years ago, my sister made it clear that she didn't love the theme I picked for my bridal shower. And for reference, it was like cozy cottage themed. Think stuff like florals, mismatched teacups, and homemade desserts. Now, she called it Pinterest vomit, but I just kind of brushed it off. She got engaged this summer and is having her bridal shower next month. Well, last week she asked if I could host it, stating that this would be payback for the one that I had. And I said sure until she sent me a full PowerPoint on her vision. It would be black and gold, there'd be a champagne tower, there would be no finger food, there would be a DJ, and then a minimum dress code. Her list of what not to do literally started with no tacky teacups or budget-looking decor. I then told her that if she felt that my shower was that bad, then maybe she should have someone else host hers. She then accused me of being bitter and said that I was ruining her chance to have a classy event. But I straight up told her I'm not doing it, and now my mom is saying that I'm reigniting sibling drama for no reason. Now, I genuinely don't think I overreacted. I just don't want to spend thousands to host something for someone who mocked my own day. But part of me also wonders if I'm being petty, because right now I literally don't know what to do. Okay, I think your sister's being very petty and so weird. Like, literally, she could have been like, okay, this is what I want for my bridal shower. But instead, she's almost punishing you for having one that she didn't like. Like, seriously, get a grip. And this was 2 years ago, mind you. She is still holding on to this and has some kind of weird grudge about it. Like, that honestly doesn't make any sense to me, and that is so toxic. So no, you're not overreacting. I also would never want to host this in a million years, especially if they're going to insult me like that, because that is absolutely unacceptable. An entitled Karen screamed at me for staying in a disabled spot, despite the fact that I literally had a parking permit for it, as she refused to listen to anything I was saying and instead demanded that I move my car. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm 25 years old, I'm disabled, and I have a valid disabled parking permit. I also drive an older BMW, and it is a nice one in my opinion. After my physiotherapy appointment, I walked back to my car, which yes, I parked in a disabled parking spot. I got in and spent a few minutes on my phone before heading home, just taking a short breath, which is something I always do after physiotherapy. The parking lot was nearly empty, and next to me were 3 regular open spots, and across from me was another empty disabled spot with 2 free spaces beside it. Oh, and by the way, it's a free parking area. Well, suddenly this woman who's somewhere in her mid-60s drives up. She stares at me for a few seconds, and then she parks her car, with half of it almost crisscross across the disabled spot opposite of me. She then gets out, walks straight up to my window, and says to me, "Why are you taking up a disabled spot? You've been sitting here playing games for 15 minutes, and I want to park here." And honestly, I was a bit surprised by this. So I said to her, "I'm allowed to park here. I was just doing something on my phone. I was about to leave." Now, before I could even finish my sentence and get anything out, she cuts me off and says, "You don't need to justify yourself." And yet she keeps going, telling me it's rude for me to sit there and that I should move over because she can't park her car anywhere else because it's too long. Now, this Karen came off a bit rude, and I tried to stay polite, but I could feel the frustration creeping in. But unfortunately, this kind of thing happens sometimes. Someone sees a young guy in a car and immediately assumes he's mistreating a disabled spot. No one ever sees why that blue card is there in the first place. Eventually, she walked away mid-sentence, and I honestly was a bit confused. I wasn't blocking anyone. I had a valid permit, and I was planning to leave. So seriously, was I being rude or was I the jerk? What should I do? No, you didn't do anything wrong, and I bet I know exactly why she walked off all of a sudden. She probably walked up and was completely excited to yell at you about parking there. Like this was her moment to get that justice she wanted, but then when she walked up and saw the tag, she was like, oh crap, how do I get out of this? I'm not justifying her behavior, don't get me wrong, I think she's a complete moron for doing that, but I guarantee you she felt like an idiot the second she saw that placard hanging from your mirror, and then she just straight up walked away mid-sentence because she didn't know what else to do. So no, of course you didn't do anything wrong. This lady was an idiot for approaching you in the first place, and I honestly can't stand people like that. My entitled friend demands that I check with her before I invite anyone to our barbecue that we're trying to plan, as she really feels the need to monitor who comes and goes from my house. Here's what's going on. For a bit of context, my friend and I have been friends for a little over a year, and for the sake of the story, I'll call this friend Rose. We met at work, and after I moved to another job, we stayed pretty close. Our partners also get along really well, we've gone on a few double dates, and I've met her friend group and made an effort to get to know everybody. Last week, I hosted a small birthday gathering at my place, and Rose and her partner came, along with my best friend who I'll call Jackie, who also knows Rose because they work at the same company even though they're at different teams. During my birthday, Rose brought up the idea of having a barbecue at my place the following weekend before she and her partner went on holiday, to which I agreed. A few days later, I was chatting with Jackie and I thought it would be nice to invite her and her partner too. Since Rose mentioned the barbecue in front of her, I figured that it would be fine. I then texted Rose by saying, hey, just so you know, Jackie and her partner are also joining us too. Well, much to my surprise, she didn't take it well. She replied by saying, "Oh, is there no more double dates between you and me? It's okay that you invited her now, but next time double check with me first." I then responded back by saying, "Oh, sorry, I guess I misread the whole thing. Since it was mentioned in front of her, I thought it would be fine." Now, later on, I had to move the barbecue to another day because I was still catching up with some other friends and family for my birthday. And with that, Rose reluctantly agreed to change. I told Jackie she could come around on the original date, but also mentioned about the new date, and she said she'd still love to come even if it was moved. Well, before confirming with Jackie, I texted Rose again. I said to her, "Hey, I hope it's okay that Jackie and her partner will still join us on Sunday since she prefers a kids-free day." Well, Rose immediately called me, sounding condescending, asking if I didn't get her message. She said the only reason she agreed to change the date was because she thought it would just be the four of us, and that I wasn't getting the point, that I should have asked her before inviting anyone else. Now, at this point, it's honestly exhausting. It's my house and I've been at her place plenty of times when she's had someone else there. I never thought to ask who would or wouldn't be coming, let alone tell her that she should check with me before inviting other people. So I sent her the following message. I said to her, "I feel like this has become too difficult. I assumed wrong that you'd be okay with Jackie coming since you both know each other, and that was honestly my mistake. But I don't want to lie to Jackie since she already knows about the barbecue, and I also don't want to say you prefer she didn't come because I'm not trying to create drama." She then responded back by saying, "It's okay. My husband said let's forget about Sunday, and the four of us can catch up for dinner after our holiday. We just wanted to do dinner with you before we go away. You can still do Sunday with Jackie and her partner. I'll tell her I'm busy packing so it won't be an issue." Now, I haven't replied yet because I don't want to say something impulsive, but I honestly just wanted to host a chill barbecue with people who all know each other. But now it's turned into this weird drama, and I'm left wondering if I really did something wrong by inviting someone to a gathering at my own house. So am I the jerk for inviting my friend to my place without checking first? Because at this point, I just don't know what to do. Okay, I've got to be honest, and I think you said this best. Rose sounds exhausting. Who in their right mind thinks they can dictate who can and cannot come to someone else's house? Like, that is so stupid, dude. What are you doing? If you're gonna mention plans in front of other people, you can't possibly expect them not to come along with it, especially if you're like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna do this and it's gonna be great." Because if you do it that way, you're basically saying, "Oh, we're gonna have a great time, but no, of course you're not invited." Like, that's obnoxious, and I just don't understand how someone could act like that and then be like, "Oh yeah, they can't come to this party that you're hosting at your house." Like, at that point, if I was in your shoes, I'd be like, "Okay, we're just not going to do anything then. This is clearly causing problems for them, and I just would not want to deal with that." So no, you didn't overreact because I think your friend's being very stupid. Today, I exposed the fact that my girlfriend lied to me about what she was doing at work because I uncovered the fact that she actually went on a date with a guy instead of actually doing her job as a real estate agent. And right now, I am so devastated that I actually ended my relationship right then and there with her. And at this point, I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I've been with my girlfriend for about 3 years now in what was a pretty much classic exclusive relationship. We were living in a big city, and very recently we moved into her province of origin. When we were moving, she picked up a new job as a real estate agent. I work from home and I'm there pretty much all day, and she also gets to work from home unless she has some property visits that she needs to take care of. Well, to cut to the chase, now that the setting is set, a couple of days ago she tells me that she's got a visit and leaves the house at like 3:45 p.m. I finish my day of work at about 5 o'clock, I leave for the gym, I train for about 2 hours, and then I come back at around 7:30 p.m. But when I get home, there's still no girlfriend to be found. I don't think much of it. I mean, I just shower, I start prepping my food, and then finally, a bit before 8 p.m., she shows up. Now, at this point, I'm still a bit curious. So I ask her where she's at, and mind you, I'm not thinking much of it. The clients were a couple and didn't like the first house, so they visited another one and then another one after that, and then she got home. And here's the thing, at this point, I'm still not really suspecting a big thing is happening, but even still, I start to find things weird. Like, I visited houses and I know how long it takes, and 3 visits certainly do not take 4 hours. So I keep poking, simply out of curiosity. And after some time and some more poking, at some point they, meaning the couple, quickly became he, meaning a singular person. And at this point, my spider sense goes off. I keep poking at her story, and the more I poke, the more she contradicts herself. And it's here that I know something's up. The discussion goes on, and she obviously is out of options, but still refuses to do the big reveal. I then get tired and I just say that I'll go to bed and that we'll pick it up the next morning. But no, I can't get to bed. I literally can't stop thinking about it. So I go back down and I corner her, metaphorically of course, and I verbally start to ramp things up with intensity and basically leave her no choice. And when she refuses, the intensity goes up another notch. And then at the very last second, when literally it was give me something or get out, she then timidly admits that they ate and went to dinner together, which she now maintains tooth and nail wasn't a date. Well, she's been an agent for 2 weeks, and because of this, I broke up the relationship right then and there. So am I overreacting in this situation? Because right now I'm honestly so heartbroken. Dude, your girlfriend absolutely went on a date with this guy. I don't care what she says. That is some crazy stuff if you ask me. Like, think about it. The second she lied about this and said, oh, it wasn't a couple, but it was a guy. Like, that's the biggest indication that, yes, something's off here. Like, I'm even suspecting the fact that she even did anything work-related. Like, who's to say she didn't spend the entire day with this guy and work had nothing to do with it? So no, you're not overreacting. This absolutely was a date, and this is incredibly heartbreaking because you guys literally moved together. Like, this is crazy. And back to her province of origin, which is probably why she was able to get a date so quickly. So in my opinion, I think you're completely justified because this is unacceptable. Today, I walked out on my friend moving apartments after she asked me to show up and help out, only to then sit on the ground and drink wine and basically watch me do everything. Because after I walked out and refused to help her out, she's now not talked to me, and I'm honestly not sure if I made a mistake. Because this entire scenario is incredibly bizarre. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my friend, who I will call Lena, is 28 years old and asked me to help her move apartments last weekend. I showed up on time with boxes, tape, I mean literally the whole thing. But when I got there, she and two of her friends were sitting on the floor drinking wine and chatting. Like, there was nothing packed, literally nothing. I asked if she wanted me to start in the kitchen, and she said to me, yeah, maybe after we finish this bottle. And I thought she was joking, but no. They kept drinking and talking while I started packing alone. After about 2 hours of doing everything myself, I said I had to go because I had plans that evening. She then looked offended and said to me, wow, I thought you were gonna help me move, not ditch me halfway through. I then told her, Lena, you haven't even started packing. I can't do it all by myself. And when I said this, she just rolled her eyes and said I was being dramatic. Well, needless to say, I left anyways, and now she hasn't talked to me ever since. So am I at fault here? Because right now I don't know how to fix this situation. Holy crap, people like this exist. This is crazy to me. First of all, if you're gonna invite someone over and be like, hey, can you help me move? At least have the common decency of packing things up and having something started. You don't just sit on the floor with your friend and be like, we're gonna drink wine and then we're gonna move stuff. Because that is like the least productive thing you could possibly do in that situation, dude. What Lena thought in her head is like, oh yeah, the original poster, they're gonna do this all for us, which means we can sit by and drink wine all day. Let's watch her work. This will be great. Like, no, you gotta get up and do some work, Lena. You can't just sit there and think I'm gonna do it. Oh, and by the way, the original poster has way more patience than I do. They dealt with this for 2 hours, bro. 2 hours of their life, they watched their friends sit on the ground getting wasted drinking wine instead of standing up and like actually doing something to help out. Because I'm telling you right now, after like 30 minutes tops, I would be like, yeah, I'm gonna leave. This is a waste of my time. And I just love the fact that Lena's trying to be like, wow, you're ditching me? How dare you? And she probably said this sloshed out of her mind with a wine bottle still in hand. Like, dude, are you kidding me right now? So no, you are not overreacting. You absolutely did the right thing here because Lena in this story is super entitled and very lazy. My idiot cousin ruined my credit score after he signed me up for a lease that I never agreed to. Because once I found out that he had literally committed fraud in my name, I found myself scrambling to get this off of my record. All while my cousin tries to act like I'm overreacting and just trying to make him look bad to the entire family. Here's what happened. Okay, this happened last year and I'm still cleaning up the mess. So my cousin, a 30-year-old male, was moving into a new apartment and apparently his credit score wasn't great. He then calls me one night, super casual, and he says to me, hey, can you just co-sign my lease real quick? It's no big deal. They just need someone with a clean record. When he said this, I told him politely no. I was 25 at the time, just started rebuilding my own credit after paying off student loans, and I didn't want to risk it. When I said this, he acted like he understood and we hung up, and I honestly thought that was the end of it. But then 2 months later, I get a letter from a collection agency saying that I owe $600 for damages on an apartment I've never even seen. And as you can probably guess, it turns out my cousin put my name down anyways. He literally forged my info on the lease because according to him, look, it's just easier if you don't make a big deal out of it. When I confronted him, he said, and I swear, this is word for word, look, you have a good credit. I don't. You're supposed to help me. It's not like you're paying for it. And he said this as if he was entitled to it. I ended up having to dispute it, file a fraud report, and then freeze my credit. The whole process took months and multiple phone calls. Meanwhile, he keeps telling everyone that I was overreacting and trying to make him look bad. I mean, the entitlement is unreal. Like, how do you screw up your own finances and then decide it's someone else's responsibility to save you? And now my credit score is damaged because of that stunt. But family or not, some people just don't understand any kind of boundaries. Holy crap, this is a nightmare. I can only imagine what this must have been like. Like, holy crap. Like, what he did is not only incredibly unethical and just so dishonest, but it's also, I'm pretty sure, like, very illegal. Like, I can't just go around, get someone's information to be like, okay, we're co-signing on an apartment. Let's get ready to do this. Like, no, dude, don't put me on the lease. That's insane. Especially for someone that you probably know for a fact is as irresponsible as your cousin. So yeah, this whole situation sucks, but if I was in your shoes, I would be shouting this entire situation from the rooftop so that everybody in my family and then some can see the actual truth of what happened. Like, if this guy really wants to twist this to make him look like the victim here, then fine, I'll go ahead and drop some receipts and be like, oh, this is what you put me through. These are the links that I had to go through just to get this taken care of, and yeah, my credit score is now screwed over because of you. Because if this guy wants to mess around, then he can absolutely find out as well. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my college roommate that she can't have her mom stay the night in our shared college space? Because right now I'm being treated like garbage and I just don't know what to do about this. Here's what's going on. Okay, so as the title suggests, my roommate wants her mother over at our place so that she can sleep in our shared room. For some context, we are both sophomores in college. We've never had any issues before except for like minor miscommunications, and I'm honestly baffled at this scenario. She woke me up this morning and told me that her mother was going to come around in half an hour and help her clean up and take her out. Now, I have no issues with her mother, as at this point I've known her for like 3 years, but I've never spoken to her for more than like a few seconds when she comes to visit, and it's always just common pleasantries and then we part ways. In total, we've probably spent less than like half an hour in the same room. Anyways, once they got back from their outing, I was in our room doing homework, and she asked me if it was okay if her mom slept in her bed with her tonight. When she said this, I was extremely confused. I mean, she has never asked this before, and while I like her mother, I also don't really want to sleep in the same room with her. So I asked her if she was asking if I would leave for the night so that she could have some kind of girls' night with her mom, to which she refused and said that she just wanted to know if her mom could stay over here tonight. I pressed her again and I asked if she meant her mom would sleep here and she would sleep somewhere else, or they would sleep in the bed together, and she said they would most likely just sleep together. Well, I told her this made me extremely uncomfortable, and I don't really know her mom well enough to want to sleep in the same room with her, to which she replied by saying, well, we didn't know each other before we roomed together, and we still sleep in the same room. But am I wrong in thinking that's a completely separate and unavoidable thing? Her mom absolutely does not have to sleep with us. Now, both her and her mom refuse to speak to me and are being extremely standoffish with me. Her mother even texted my mom and said that I was being extremely rude and that she would have a talk with me about being more polite and courteous with guests. I'm just so confused and weirded out, and at this point, I don't know if I'm the jerk. Okay, honestly, I think the part that kind of like pisses me off the most is the way the mom and this like roommate are acting. Like, holy crap, you texted my mom over this? Are you crazy? And then she wants to be like, oh, I'm gonna have a talk with her. Because it's like, okay, bet, let's have that talk. Let's talk about how you're too cheap to get a hotel and like stay out of my space. Listen, if the roommate had like a separate room and they're going to stay there, then like, cool, go for it. Do whatever you want. But I'm imagining this small dorm room where it's like, okay, there's like no space as it is. And now you're telling me your mom's gonna be sleeping over at the same time as me? Like, I'm absolutely with the original poster here. That's weird and just a little bit uncomfortable. So no, this is absolutely out of line, and I definitely don't think you're the jerk. Am I overreacting by asking my mother-in-law to move out, all because she's become too involved in raising our daughter? Here's what's going on, because things are about to get really weird. Okay, so my wife and I have a 3-year-old daughter, and for the past year, my mother-in-law has been living with us after she had some financial issues. Now, as you can probably guess, it was supposed to be temporary, a few months tops at most, but it's dragged on way longer than either of us expected. At first, it was nice having the extra help with childcare, but over time, she started taking over completely. She steps in every single time our daughter cries, interrupts us when we're disciplining her, and often refers to our daughter as my baby. It's gotten to the point where our daughter now goes to her first when she wants something and not to us. My wife has told her mom multiple times to tone it down, but she just laughs it off or says something like, "You'll thank me later when she turns out to be perfect." But last week was the final straw. I found my mother-in-law giving our daughter a haircut in the kitchen without even asking us first. When I confronted her about it, she said to us, "It was getting in her eyes, you're welcome." Well, my wife was furious furious about this. She said she feels like her own mom has taken over and that she's uncomfortable in her own home. Well, we talked about it and agreed that we need to ask her to move out and find her own place, but now my mother-in-law is guilt-tripping us, saying that we're kicking her out and that she's done everything for us and that we're ripping her granddaughter away from her. I feel really bad, but this situation is destroying the balance in our home. So seriously, am I overreacting by kicking her out? Because at this point, we're just incredibly frustrated. No way, dude, you're making the absolute best decision here. This is not you overreacting. This is you getting someone out of your house that is damaging your daughter. And yes, in my opinion, that's what's happening. Your daughter's 3 years old and this lady's like hijacking you guys being parents, meaning that she's not young enough to understand that, yeah, this is not normal. Grandma is not and should not be the first person that she goes to anytime she needs something. And I think you guys have clocked this correctly. If I found out my mother-in-law was standing in the kitchen cutting my kid's hair, all without asking me first, I would lose my mind. That's not okay. You can't do that. You're not the parent. I am. So no, her guilt tripping and manipulation is stupid, and I just would not listen to that for a second. And if anything, I would give her 30 days and be like, okay, you gotta go and figure it out, because otherwise this is only gonna cause you a lot of heartache and a lot of problems. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my dad bring his new wife to my graduation after she recently said some nasty things about my mom online? Here's what's going on. I'm a 22-year-old female and I'm graduating college next year, and my dad has been asking for months about tickets. Now, each graduate gets 4 in total, but I told him from the start I was saving 2 for him and my stepmom, 1 for my mom, and then 1 for my younger brother. Everything was fine until about a month ago when my dad's wife posted on Facebook a photo of them at dinner with a caption that said the following: "Some people can't handle seeing their exes move on. Stay mad, jealous types." It doesn't take a genius to figure out that she was talking about my mom. I mean, they've had tension ever since the divorce, and my mom was actually the one who helped my dad through rehab years ago. My mom showed me the post even though she didn't respond to it, and I told my dad it was disrespectful and that I didn't want his wife at my graduation if she was going to be taking digs like that. He then said I'm overreacting to a post and that it's not a big deal. I then told him that he can still come, but she is not welcome this time. And when I said this, he flipped out, saying that I'm punishing him for loving someone who isn't my mother. And now I'm getting guilty text messages from his wife too, saying that I'm making family division even worse and that I'm embarrassing my dad. So am I the jerk here? Because this whole situation is a giant mess. Okay, honestly, I don't blame the original poster. This is really toxic and I would not want this anywhere near my graduation at all, especially since it literally seems like she's doing this just to antagonize your mom right before a big event. And that's like classic narcissist behavior. Like, it really seems like she wants to ruffle some feathers right before she sees her in person. Like, there's no reason to make that comment at all. Just move on and be happy. Don't drag the other person down. And from the sounds of it, the mom in this story is not the bad person. Clearly the ex is, and clearly the dad is like absolutely toxic for encouraging this. Like, he's trying to flip this on the daughter by being like, oh, you're punishing me for loving someone who isn't your mom. But what he's really doing is saying, hey, stop holding me accountable for what my new wife says. Like, this guy is so stupid. He's turning this into something about himself when in reality, he's almost encouraging his ex-wife to make these kind of comments. Like, that's so toxic. So no, you're not the jerk, and I seriously just don't blame you for a second. Today, I got some much needed revenge against my ex-wife, as I not only canceled her internet, but also got her phone number canceled as well, putting her in a position that honestly she definitely deserves because she has caused me so many problems. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I'm a divorced dad. Together, we've got 2 very good kids, and we've mostly been amicable, but mostly because I've paid for literally everything. Part of the reason for the separation was her not working enough while complaining constantly about our situation. I went from selling illegal substances as my main source of income to becoming an independent plumber, and I did this so we could stay in this expensive city, Los Angeles. Well, 2 years ago, we finally separated and I moved out, and when I did that, I stopped paying her rent, and I even told her that I'm going to be separating the phones very soon. Well, 6 months later, and she still hasn't found a new carrier, so I went ahead and canceled her number, and that time I was nice enough to 3-way call her so that she could at least port her number to a new carrier. What I had forgotten though was that I was still paying the home internet, which is a service that I also use for my new place as well. In fact, a year ago, I remember that I told her that she needs a new internet provider too, and that soon I'm going to be cutting that off as well. And as you can probably imagine based off the pattern, there was a lot more gaslighting. Now, I put this off for a while, but yesterday I got an email thanking me for my payment twice. But you know what? I'm so broke right now that I was highly motivated and I just got to work. When I picked up the kids later that day, I also grabbed the router. And today I took it into the store to cancel, only to then find out that she put her phone number on my Spectrum account. Well, they gladly helped me terminate the mobile service, telling me that she needed a new number entirely. And on top of that, they canceled the internet, saving me about $100 a month and the satisfaction of knowing that my ex is having to get a new number because she was too shady and lazy to do the right thing. Throughout our entire relationship, she took advantage of me being nice and considerate or too lazy to be vindictive. But not today, because I was getting the revenge that I absolutely should have gotten a long time ago. Dude, I love this so much. Like, first of all, it sounds like your ex is an absolute nightmare because the way she gaslights you is so disgusting. Like, dude, what is going on right now? Like, she's going out of her way to make it seem like this is your fault, when in reality, she's just some deadbeat who refused to work, putting everything on your shoulders instead of stepping up and doing something yourself. So good for you for, like, giving your ex a lot of problems to deal with, because from the sounds of it, she definitely deserves it. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay for a new door after a car literally made an illegal U-turn into the bike lane, which then caused me to hit his car head on? Because right now he's saying he's gonna sue me, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out and give a bit of context, I live in Montreal, which has been transformed in the past few years to have a lot of cycling infrastructure. I was cycling in a bike lane and the lane was upgraded to have some small concrete barriers between it and the car lane, but unfortunately this barrier isn't all along and only near each intersection. Sadly, cars still park in the unprotected areas, especially delivery drivers like DoorDash. Well, a DoorDash driver parked in the opposite side bike lane suddenly drove into my lane at 90 degrees to do an illegal U-turn. And by the way, there's a solid line, so you cannot even pass in the oncoming lane. Well, obviously I didn't have time to completely stop and I hit the door of the car head on. I was fine and so was my bike, but my helmet got dented from hitting the car window. This idiot then got out and started shouting at me and telling me that I'm a jerk and I should have just stopped and waited for him to turn, and that according to him, I did it on purpose and he saw me. Now the car door had a massive dent from the impact. He then said this is going to cost him a lot of money and told me that I would have to pay for a new door. At this point, he was still blocking the road and some other drivers started honking, so he moved the car to park in the bike lane. I then asked for his insurance information while also saying that he's the one who owes me a helmet, but even though I asked for it, he still declined to give me anything. I then just started to cut my losses and cycle away, but he got in his car and followed me. We then stopped elsewhere and I gave him my phone number and I took his, but now he's calling me and sending me really sketchy messages about suing me if I somehow don't pay him for a new door. So am I the jerk for refusing this? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, this guy has trouble written all over him. The driver's 100% at fault and he knows that because he's trying to justify this and be like, oh, you did this on purpose. You ran into my car on purpose because you knew I was going to get in trouble. And it's like, yeah, the only reason he would be saying that is because he knows he's guilty. And now he's just trying to be like, oh, I'm going to sue you. You better pay me for my new door or else. And it's like, sorry, man, that's just not going to happen. So in my opinion, I would probably go to the police or like maybe even lawyer up. Like this sounds really sketchy and hopefully they can help take care of this, because if it really is like the way that you described it, then in my opinion, it sounds like this guy is super guilty and he absolutely is the one at fault. My entitled mom freaks out on me and my son after I begged her to please babysit my sick son at my house instead of at hers, because now my mom has freaked out and cut me off from my entire side of the family, putting me in a situation where truly I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my son was sick yesterday and my mom offered to babysit for me since I really couldn't miss work. For a bit of context, I'm a single mom because my husband passed away in an accident last year. We had 2 kids together, ages 12 and 8, and my 8-year-old has severe ADHD and autism. Being a newly single mom, money has been really tight, and I do get state assistance, but not a lot, and my husband didn't really have any life insurance, so there was no money left to us from him. My mom and my sister help me with my babysitting if the kids are sick, or if there's like no school because I just can't afford a sitter. The issues really came in when I told her that I didn't have food to spare right now because I have not been able to go shopping yet. I then told her to please bring her own food, or at least be prepped to have to buy her own food, because the food I do have in the house is strictly for the kids until I can get to the store this weekend. She then said it would just be easier to take my son to her house then, which I was okay with, but my 8-year-old really hates going to her house. But when she comes to get him, he has a meltdown because he doesn't want to go to her house. I asked her if she can just stay and I can find a way to get more food before the weekend, but she said no and insisted that he had to come with her. And honestly, that just made the entire situation way worse. Now, my mom has not had great patience, but her and my sister are the only sitters I have right now because they don't charge me much, and they only only thing they asked for is maybe gas. Well, when I said this, she lost it and started yelling at me and him that she didn't have time for this and that she had plans that day that she had canceled just so she could watch him, which by the way is something she did not mention to me at all beforehand when I asked her. She also said, and I quote, "I wish we could trade lives and I could lay around and throw tantrums all day and you can go to work and just have everyone use you and take your money all the time. How much it must suck to be you and do whatever you want while I have to do nothing but take care of other people." Now, I never borrow money from my mother, but my sister and grandma live with her and they don't work, so I know she is under a lot of stress and she takes it out on me a lot. She does this by calling me a burden or letting me know how much my tragic loss has affected her negatively. She'll also call me other names or yell at me for things that my sister or grandma do. Nonetheless, whenever she said this, I didn't yell or argue. I simply covered his ears and I looked at her and I said, "Mom, he's 8 years old." And when I said this, she lost it. She screamed, "Screw you then. Miss work and lose money. I don't care. I am leaving." And then she got up and she left. She now says that she will not babysit for me ever again, just so I can know struggle, which if she really follows through with that, that means I'm gonna have to miss a bunch of work or find a sitter that I can trust that won't break my bank. So I'm honestly wondering, should I have just cut her a break knowing that she is under so much pressure? And I understand she's frustrated and needs to get it off her chest, but I feel like a verbal punching bag and I don't want my kids to deal with that as well. So am I the jerk because I just don't know what to do? Okay, before we go any further, the original poster has an update to this story and there's a lot that happened. Here's what's going on. Okay, to start things out, my mom is banned from my place of work and I will no longer be speaking to her or my grandma, while also limiting contact with my sister. In fact, I was sent home early due to my emotional state at work. Basically, they showed up before my lunch break and they demanded to talk to me. Well, when my boss said no, my mom lost it and started screaming at her so loudly I could hear them down the hall from my classroom. She then sent another staff member to get me to try and defuse the situation, but my mom only started screaming at me that I wasted her time and her gas because she was going to have to wait around all day for me. And she did this while also calling me all sorts of names and cussing with every other word. I then asked her if we could go outside to talk, and she said that she no longer wants to talk to me and that she only came here because my sister asked her to. Now, one of my coworkers is going to be retiring a week before Thanksgiving, and she told me that she will watch my kids during school breaks after she retires for the same price I paid my mom, which is right after everyone got to see what my mother was like in person. She said she doesn't feel right having me keep her as a sitter after her behavior today, and she understands how hard being a widow truly is. And apparently, this coworker lost her husband when her kids were like 10 and 14, but I had no idea about this until today since she never really shared much info about her personal life. We then ended up having a talk with the police on my mother because she was refusing to leave, and they actually came and escorted her off the property. After they left, my sister called me to tell me that my mom had blocked me on literally everything and actually told her that she no longer has 2 daughters and just 1, and that my sister is forbidden from coming to see me or watching the kids while she lives with our mother. But luckily, she will be moving in with her fiance after he gets back from deployment. And also, just in case anyone was wondering, my coworkers knew that childcare was a struggle for me, but they didn't really have any advice to help me out with childcare because most of them don't have kids. And in fact, a lot of their kids are already grown up. But the lady who offered to help is one of my favorite coworkers, and she has even come over to help me make decorations for our classroom at work, so she knows my kids, and they really seemed to like her anytime she came over, which is in a way giving me hope that things might work out for the better. Oh my gosh, so many things happened here. This is crazy. First of all, I want to say that your coworker in this story is an absolutely amazing person. They stepped up right when this crap was going down and was like, okay, I'll help you out. I'm retiring soon. I can absolutely come in clutch and make sure that your kids are taken care of. And that is amazing. Like, that is like the most charitable and kindest thing she can do in this situation, because the mom of this story is an absolute narcissist. Think about it. She's trying to be like, oh, I'm not going to show up because I want you to know what it's like to struggle. Your husband's death, by the way, is affecting me negatively. And it's like, hey, stupid, what about your daughter? I'm willing to bet she's probably going through a harder time. Like, what are you talking about? This is just such an inconvenient time for him to die. I mean, come on. Like, holy crap, what an idiot. And the fact that she was yelling at an 8-year-old kid who's like clearly not okay with being around her, like, dude, I'm right there with your kid. He probably clocked that immediately and was like, no, I don't want to go to that crazy lady's house. You don't know what she's like when you're not around. Like, holy crap. So yeah, this entire situation is so crazy. Your mom is insane. And the fact that she wants to punish you all because you're like, hey, can you please just like stay at my house? Which, by the way, that's where all of this started. Like, that is absolutely uncalled for, and there is no good excuse for that. And hopefully you and your family can find some peace being away from her, because if anything, this is like a blessing in disguise. An entitled Karen literally throws a fit and tries to ruin my son's 5th birthday party, as she loses her mind when she finds out that we reserved 2 tables, as well as set up a bouncy castle against her wishes. Things got so bad that the cops ended up getting called after her group of people started a fist fight, putting me in one of the most awkward and honestly craziest situations I've ever been in my entire life. Here's how it all went down. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I did all my due diligence to have my son's 5th birthday party under shaded benches at a public park. These are basically first come first serve, but can also be rented out if you really want to. I wanted to do a bouncy castle too and had to get a city permit just to allow it. So I reserved my 2 rows of benches under the 6-row awning and got there at about 6 o'clock in the morning just to make sure that I got an end row for easier access because it is a kids party, while also securing my 2 rows of tables. Well, another guy comes out of nowhere and starts setting up for his 1-year-old's birthday party and actually starts putting up ribbons and balloons and tablecloths on the 2 tables right behind me. This guy then asked me if I could watch his stuff real quick while he goes to the store for ice or something like that, because I guess he forgot to get something. I don't exactly remember what it was specifically, but regardless, I say to him, sure. I mean, I genuinely have nothing else to do while I'm waiting at the park, and I had to wait until noon for the party to even start. I did have my son with me because he wanted to come and play at the park and run around while we waited. And this is really important for the next part here. So the next thing I know is that my son is hysterically running towards me, and I'm freaking out because of his screams of terror. So a lady with her infant and toddler were at the playground, and she had a puppy on a leash. My son was running to the swings, and the dog was able to lunge out and bite him on the arm. And it's here that I found that he had an actual good puncture wound. So first I check on him and I make sure that he's okay, and once I do, I go find the said dog owner and I'm like, what in the world is going on? Why bring aggressive dogs to the park with kids running around? She also never even bothered to come to me either. I mean, I had to go to her and she was rushing to leave. But she was saying, oh, it's a puppy, he has his shots, and all this other crap. And while I was pissed, I will say her apologies and look of remorse led me to eventually just move on. Now, his wound wasn't worth a doctor's trip or anything like that. I mean, it was minor, and this lady actually had shot records and we exchanged numbers, so I just let it go. And truly, I thought that's the worst that will happen today, but oh my god, I was so incredibly wrong. So me and my boy go back to the tables, and this new lady, who I will call Karen, and you will understand why pretty quickly, has suddenly arrived and was ripping all the decorations off the tables the guy asked me to watch. When I confronted her, she says that she reserved the tables and we all had to move. Well, it's here that I let her know that I too reserve tables, and only 2 rows can be reserved, and any that aren't are first come first serve. On top of that, there was a guy already here and he just left to grab something real quick. And with all the chaos of my son's ordeal that was around at the time, the guy finally got back. I then apologized for the Karen and his decorations that he literally right now is pulling out of the trash. She's pissed off because she thought she got all 6 rows of tables, and it's here that the insults start flying at this guy from her, plus the small group of people that showed up with her. I actually showed her the spot on our permits where it states 2 tables, and she's pissed off but kinda just let it go. Well, that is until the bounce house guy gets here and starts to actually set things up. Karen comes stomping over to me and she says to me, you can't have that here. But I look at her and I say, yes, you can. You just have to have a city permit to do it, which I absolutely do. The Karen then looked at me and said, no, I called the park and they said that you can't. But I responded back and said, yeah, you can. It even says that on their website. You have to get a city permit, which was like $100 to be able to set one up, and guess what? I did that. She then wanted to see said permit, but was being very rude from the get-go. So I said to her, lady, I don't have to prove anything to you. Now at this point, the parties are in full swing, and she actually keeps trying to send her kids over to our bounce house. It's here that I tell her, I'm sorry, but I can't permit that. If one of your kids gets hurt, then I'm gonna be liable. So sorry, but that's not gonna happen. Now I didn't do this, but I also probably should have mentioned that if she wasn't a total jerk to everybody, then maybe it would be a different story. But anyhow, this makes her over the top mad, which then prompts this Karen and her group to start hurling insults towards the middle table. She was more mad at me, I think, but they were closer, so they got her rage. Anyways, Karen and her entitled man get really nasty, and the next thing I know, there is a full-blown fist fight between the Karen's baby shower group and a 1-year-old birthday party group. And while it wasn't like the whole group fighting each other and instead just the husbands, it was still incredibly scary. Eventually, the cops got called and the kids were really scared. I then walk over and I said I'd give a statement to the police, where I explained the guy next to us didn't start it, but instead it was Karen and her group. Well, surprisingly, no one went to jail. But of course, Karen had the police check if I had the proper permits, and when all my stuff stayed because it was all legal, she finally backed down and stopped with the insults. But regardless, I still got these awful stares from her and pretty much anyone in her group the entire time we were there. Like, this entire scenario was crazy, and I will probably never forget this ever again in my entire life. Oh my gosh, imagine going to the park, trying to have a good time for your 5-year-old son, only to then watch this lady start ripping down decorations, get in your face and scream at you, try to prevent you from setting things up, and then eventually get in a fight with a group next to you. Holy crap, you have some problems. It's also baffling to me that nobody went to jail and this lady wasn't kicked out of the park. Seriously, this is the definition of public disturbance. Not to mention the fact that your son got bit by a dog. Dude, this has all gotta stop. Murphy's Law is in full effect. Somebody reset the router. What's going on right now? So yeah, that Karen was crazy, and thankfully nobody got hurt besides your son getting bit by a dog, because this could have been way worse if the circumstances were just a little bit different. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for excluding my autistic son from a family vacation and choosing to leave him behind for a week, all because he ruined our last vacation? Because right now he is not taking it well, and I'm not sure if I'm in the wrong. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my husband and I have 3 kids, and their ages are 11, 9, and 6. And this particular situation is about my 6-year-old son. We've been planning for a family vacation for a while, and this time, we decided not to include him and have his grandparents care for him for a week. Now, you might be wondering the reason we are excluding him. Well, last year we went on a family vacation and he hated every bit of it and kept throwing tantrums and having meltdowns, all because things were different from what he was used to. He even ran off multiple times in the hotel, so we had to literally spend half the day just looking for him. Due to this, we couldn't do most of the activities that we had planned, and our other 2 children were also pretty disappointed due to this. This time though, we wanted to go to a similar place, mostly since we couldn't enjoy it last time, and we decided for his sake that it was best to leave him with his grandparents for a week so that his routine isn't majorly disrupted. For reference, my son has autism, and he struggles to adjust with changes and has meltdowns if anything goes differently. Since it was a different place, his safe foods weren't available either, and those that were available didn't taste the same, so he refused to eat them altogether. The only things he could eat were packaged snacks, and since we didn't have anything else, he had to live off of them the entire time. We had to cancel most of our plans because he would throw tantrums and have meltdowns very often. When we told our older children about our upcoming trip, our 9-year-old started crying and said that he didn't want to go because of what happened last time, and our 11-year-old said that she also wanted to stay with her grandparents. Well, when I told them that their brother would actually be staying behind with the grandparents, they seemed relieved and actually kind of excited. But when we told our 6-year-old about this, he did not take it well at all, and said that it was incredibly unfair for him. I reminded him of what happened last time, and he promised me that he would behave. But really, I don't want to make him miserable and the rest of us miss out on the trip due to him. I feel like it's best for everyone, including him, that he just doesn't come. But this is literally where I feel like I'm conflicted on our decision. I mentioned in a support forum for parents with autistic kids about leaving him behind, and I got so many comments calling me cruel and heartless, and that he deserves better parents. I even told his counselor about this, and even she told me that I was wrong, and that I should instead make accommodations. But I don't understand how I can make reasonable accommodations while enjoying the trip. The only place I know he won't be miserable is at home. I mean, we visited relatives' homes before, and he had meltdowns at things there and even damaged their property. So am I the jerk here? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I do not think you're the jerk, because this is one of those situations where it's like, okay, I'm not going to sacrifice the enjoyment of my 2 oldest kids just for my youngest who needs a little bit extra help. And I'm not blaming the kid for having autism. I can only imagine what that's like at that age, especially when you're struggling with changes and going to different places. He's only 6 years old, so I have a lot of sympathy for that, and it's I completely understand why he's not having a good time. But if you can't quite get it under control, then going on separate vacations might be the plan. And I think a lot of people in the comments of this post have pretty much suggested that. If you plan some kind of separate, smaller vacation just for him, that might make up for this one situation and might be for the best. But if he really is causing a lot of problems and we can't look past it and it's just ruining pretty much everything, then yeah, I think you're making the best decision for the entire family by saying that he's going to sit out this one, but then maybe have another one in the future to try and make up for it. I think that's very fair, especially when you consider the circumstances that are pretty much going on in this story. I am so sick and tired of people thinking that my mom is a good person, especially when I consider the fact that my childhood was a nightmare because of her. And at this point, I'm so distraught over this, I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Alright, I want to start off by saying that I am so tired of false victim narratives and feeling like I'm less than a human. I'm tired of feeling treated like a bad investment, and I'm sick of feeling like I don't matter. I've recently been in therapy, and I've been dealing with this with a professional. And before any of you go, oh, you've got mommy issues, I want you to read this before so you can cast your judgment accordingly. I'm a 33-year-old male, and I'm the firstborn child to very successful attorneys for parents. Now, to put it bluntly, my father is an idiot, and I've already written about him being a lost cause. But this time, I'm going to delve into a story and tell you about my mother. For a little bit of background about her, she immigrated to this country when she was 2 years old. She was a very hardworking woman and got into an Ivy League college, then became a very successful attorney. All of this is extremely admirable, and in many ways, I look up to her as an example of striving for your dreams. With that being said, behind those accomplishments, I got a very different person raising me and my siblings. My mother, when she punishes us, is a very draconian and Machiavellian person. I mean, she would be pretty sadistic, honestly. I would say she's a sociopath. I don't remember her being an emotional person. I remember as a kid, I would tell some jokes and just remember how she would just stare at me as if I wasted her time. The one time I remember her just absolutely laughing her head off was when we all thought that she was having a stroke. And I kid you not, one of the earliest memories was when I accidentally killed my brother's pet. My brother has severe autism and had a pet snake, and he was freaking out because it wouldn't close its jaw. And I thought that I was doing the right thing by walking up and closing its jaw. I then remember the snake going limp and my father confirming that it was dead. Mind you, I was just a child, and I did not know that what I did would have hurt the snake in any way, shape, or form, but my mother just didn't care. My younger brother then started tearing up and crying and mourning his pet, and then my mother rushed into my room, stared at me with evil eyes, and started screaming how she was going to ship me off to live with another family, that I was no longer her son. She screamed that I was this evil child, and the entire time I was crying, like non-stop tears rolling down my face. Again, mind you, I was still a child, and I seriously thought I was helping my brother and the snake. My mom actually sent me to therapy to deal with a child therapist, and ever since then, I've always felt like I was some sort of devil spawn in my mother's eyes, as if I was a Damien Thorne monster that she had the misfortune of bearing. Once the accounts are clear, I swear to God, I thought I was in a different version of Rosemary's Baby. I also honestly hated coming home as a kid, as I was an easy target. It wasn't an uncommon occurrence if crap wasn't going right in her life, where she would take her anger out not only on me, but my other siblings as well. I just so happened to be the greatest target of her chastisement because I was the eldest. To avoid this, I would usually sign up for after-school activities, football, rugby, debate team, a part-time job of any kind, whatever I could do to get away from her and those bad days that she has. Now, my sister, for the most part, was the golden child. She could have gotten away with anything. While my sister got designer clothing and had shopping trips for whatever she might need in a new wardrobe, I was expected, on the other hand, to take secondhand clothing and wouldn't even go on shopping trips with her, despite the fact that she was buying jeans for me. I mean, I remember having to wear jeans that were way too tight. I remember having to literally beg her to take us to get new clothing, and I swear I had an easier time pulling my own teeth out on those days. For the most part, I was expected to be a pushover, expected to just accept things the way they are and not throw a fit about it at all. My mother was very much the type of person who would say that children should be seen but not heard. But my siblings, on the other hand, if they needed something, they got it. It was always a freaking struggle for me. But the most awful incident happened when I was 14 years old. My parents convinced me to go with my friend and his father to a different state for winter break, despite the fact that I had reservations to do so. Well, the entire time, my friend's father bullied me. There wasn't a single day where he wouldn't stop giving me crap of any kind. It became worse because I met my friend's grandmother, who has listening problems and memory problems, and I gave her my name and she kept calling me by another name. And since I didn't want to be impolite whenever she called me by this other name, I decided I would just go ahead and respond. Well, as a result, my friend's dad kept calling me by that fake name, and it got so annoying to an extreme degree. When we finally got home after 2 weeks of nonstop bullying, my friend, his dad, and I were standing in the kitchen with my mother, my siblings, and a family friend. And it's here that my friend's dad thought it was funny to flick me behind the ear. At that point, I was fed up. I turned around and I yelled, "Stop!" And my mother simply walked up, tapped me on the shoulder, and whispered in my ear to go to my room. And I knew at that point my fate was sealed. While I was in my room, my friend's dad spun this image of me being a disrespectful and rude kid. He told my mother about the name calling, and my mother then called me back into the kitchen where I sat down in front of everybody. My mother then asked me questions about the trip, and I told her that I didn't want to talk about it, but she said we were going to talk about it. As we got to the name calling part of things, she asked me what the name was, and I responded what the fake name was. Well, immediately she jumped at me and screamed, "Well, guess what? We're going to call you by that name for 24 hours. She then turned to my siblings and told them that they're going to call me by a fake name for the next 24 hours, and as everybody was screaming that name, the family friend was giving me a lecture. At this point, I was bawling my eyes out. 2 weeks of torture, and now I get picked on by my own family. I mean, I couldn't even hear what this family friend was saying because everything just seemed muffled after that. The mistreatment was so bad that even my friend's dad felt terrible. He tried to apologize to me, but I ended up just running away in the rain. I ended up under a bridge near my house and I just slept there. And the only reason I ended up home again was because a cop found me under the bridge and escorted me home. And I've got to be honest, to this day, this incident still gives me nightmares. As she raised us, she treated us like bad investments. Anytime we would have any criticisms against her or what she was doing, she would remind us that she spent money on us and that basically, therefore, we had to shut up and obey her command. Anytime I had a legitimate concern, she would always shut me down with the very line of saying, "Oh, well, I spent a lot of money on you." And that automatically would trigger me to shut down the conversation and just pretend like the incident never happened. And in case you're still wondering, this happens even to this day. Well, in college, things got really dark and I had some very dark thoughts, if you know what I mean. My hatred for both of my parents escalated to such a degree that I thought ending it all would be the final middle finger to both of them. I told my mom and she feigned concern. However, a few days later, she went right back to her verbally awful self and yelled at me over why the house wasn't clean at her standard. Then, a few years back, my sister graduated from law school and the family decided to host a graduation party over there. My dad rented out an Airbnb and I was told that it would be a family event. Well, my dad later informed me on the phone that my mother took the liberty of inviting her hairstylist and their partner to the Airbnb as well. And as a result, I was relegated to the couch. I was very close to not going, but I didn't want to disappoint my sister. And in hindsight, I definitely should not have gone. By the time I landed, it was a 12-hour journey and I was dead tired. My parents and my sister picked me up from the airport, and instead of going straight to the house where a couch was waiting for me, we went to Costco instead. And I waited in the parking lot for what felt like hours. Once we were done with Costco, we went to my sister's apartment because she wanted to get ready for a photo shoot. So instead of me napping for the 2 hours that I was there, I was up listening to my mom and my sister talking while music was playing in the background. When we finally reached the Airbnb and I just wanted to sleep on the couch, my mom was instead socializing with her hairstylist and friend. I then stayed up for another 2 hours until people finally decided to sleep. And my God, I hated that vacation. And truly, these are some of the biggest examples of where I'm pissed off at my mother. I am currently in therapy discussing issues with a professional, and funnily enough, her jaw drops with some of the stories I have to tell. But the thing that pisses me off about this whole situation is that people talk to me about how she's such a great person and how she's super kind. In my mind though, I think of all those terrible memories, and I look at her clients, which are mostly juveniles, because she works in juvenile dependency, and I think if they only knew the type of person that she truly is. When I try to approach her with all the issues that I have with her, she always talks about how much money she spent on me and that I'm just an ungrateful person. Don't get me wrong, we didn't struggle growing up. I was grateful and appreciative of my upbringing, just definitely not the way she treated me or my siblings. All I want is for her to understand my side of things, but she refuses to listen even to this day. I honestly don't think even trying to maintain a relationship with her is worth it, and I can actually count on one hand the times in the past 10 years that she's even called me to see how I was doing, because this situation is honestly so messy and I just don't know what to do. Okay, this is so heavy. Your mom is super awful. Like, your parents did not like you at all growing up, and that is terrible. I'm so sorry for that. But there's one thing you need to know about people like this, and I really mean this, because I don't think she will ever come to understand where you're coming from. She will always try to twist it around, she'll always have something to say, and I'm honestly convinced that she will do whatever it takes to avoid taking responsibility altogether. Like, I'm sorry, I'm just not convinced based on what you described that she will ever come to be like, oh, you're right, I understand what you're going through. And like, especially when it comes to like an apology of some kind, like that's definitely not gonna happen. Because seriously, let's think about the person we're dealing with right now. She treated you like the stepchild that nobody wanted. She was mistreating you constantly. She called you by some fake name just to mock you. Anytime you cried or were upset, she would like turn it against you. Like, this is a series of very awful mistreatments towards you from someone who definitely is a sociopath. Like, I think you clocked that correctly early on. Like, she is crazy. It's either that or she's a narcissist, but I'm sure those are like distant cousins if you think about it. So I think it's probably important to know that you are dealing with a very emotionally empty person. Like, this is a husk of a human being who does not feel any emotion. She doesn't care about how you're feeling or what you're doing. I mean, when you were in college, she barely cared about the fact that you were thinking about ending it all, which I'm really glad you're alive, by the way. Like, that sounds really scary, and I can only imagine going through that, like, truly. But in my opinion, and this is truly just my opinion, when someone shows you who they are, it is very important to believe them. That's like a life motto I go through, dude. When someone's like treating me like garbage and they're showing that, yeah, they don't care about me, then in my opinion, it's my responsibility to be like, okay, this is how they actually think about me. This is the way they treat me on a daily basis. This is how they treated me growing up in this instance. And I need to believe this and say, this is how they really are. And based on what you're describing, your mom does not sound like a good person at all. She blatantly pushed you to the side and bullied you all throughout your childhood. She made you feel like crap and essentially just showered your siblings with love and gave you absolutely nothing. So I can say confidently, if I was in your shoes or even close to this kind of situation, and I found myself stuck in this kind of garbage where I'm trying to find some kind of middle ground for them to understand where I'm coming from while also unpacking the crap that my parents put me through. Like, if that was me, I absolutely would be like, okay, I'm going no contact with these people. And I don't say that lightly, and honestly, that's just what I would do. For me, there's no point in going back and forth with people who legitimately do not care about my existence, because it's disrespectful to me and my own self-dignity to have to deal with someone like that, only to then have to navigate their stupid excuses as to why they treated me like crap. Like, your mom's only excuse is like, well, we spent a lot of money on you, so you just have to deal with it. And it's like, oh, okay, you spent a lot of money, but you also mistreated me. You would rather I sleep on the couch instead of a bed. Like, you do know I'm your son, correct? And I gotta be honest, just to circle back, if I had a family member or like a cousin or a kid of some kind, and they came back and said, yeah, that man was bullying me for 2 weeks, I would turn around and probably get in a fight with that guy. Like, what are you talking about? You don't turn around and be like, oh, I'm gonna call you by a fake name for the next 24 hours. Welcome to the next 24 hours of your life. Like, dude, what's going on right now? So truly, with all things considered, I'm so sorry you went through this. I'm super glad you shared this story because, my God, people need to hear stuff like this. I think understanding people's stories and like their experiences like this, it's a really good way of gaining empathy and understanding where people are coming from. So to that end, I really hope things get better for you in your life, and I hope you're able to find some distance from your crazy mother because you deserve way better, and that woman is truly a monster. My entitled mother is trying to hijack my wedding as she says that the dress I want to get for my wedding simply doesn't match the vision that she has, putting me in a situation where I feel not only judged but incredibly frustrated as well, because right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm the oldest child, and the parents that I grew up with versus the parents my sister and brother grew up with are completely different types of parents. They are so strict and controlling, with me especially. So I'm getting married and I'm very anxious about wedding dress shopping. I've lost 70 pounds to try and get in shape, and I thought I would pop into this little dress store to check it out because my beautiful loving niece told me her bestie works there. So I figured maybe I would be comfortable with her best friend when it comes to dress fitting, because honestly I fear going with my mom because she is so judgy and just full of body shaming. So my sister and I walk in and are greeted by this adorable girl, and she just immediately makes me feel welcomed and accepted. And on top of that, I ended up liking a few dresses to try on. Like, this was totally random and just not planned at all. I put on a white one which was pretty, but I didn't feel like myself. It was just way too pure for my heavy metal loving soul. Then she had this new black one. I put it on and all of a sudden I could see everything. The bridesmaids color theme, what the men should wear, and it's just like everything came together. I fell in love with the black one and felt so confident in it. Like, this is the one that I can marry my best friend in. So I FaceTimed my mother-in-law because she's always great and supportive. Then I felt guilty for not FaceTiming my actual mother. And let me just tell you something, that was an absolute mistake. She immediately got sad and jealous and felt left out, even though there was nothing to really be left out on, since this was a random thing, and it was just a thing my little sister and I did in the spur of the moment. Like, we literally just said to ourselves, hey, this looks nice, I've got 10 minutes, why not, let's give it a try. It wasn't some like planned thing where we're gonna find the dress. So anyways, she ends up later saying to me that her and my dad hate the black one, and she then says to me, it's not the vision I have for you. You look like the queen of death. You're not gothic, so why wear black? It's like you're going to a funeral. We have to pick a dress we mutually agree on. I mean, where are you at? It looks like a rundown less than $2,000 type of dress. This also doesn't scream traditional wedding at all to me. And I'm like, lady, I'm getting married on a farm. There's nothing traditional about it, let alone anything in my life. She also got mad at my poor dad, who wasn't even there, by the way. And the only reason I even called her in the first place was to at least involve her just a little bit, but boy, did that backfire on me 1000%. She also keeps using my wedding as an excuse to go out and work on her campaigns, and she's always like, oh, I'm doing this so I can help you with your wedding. And it's like, are you kidding me? I didn't ask for a single penny from you, and you've also not offered anything. So please stop using my wedding as some kind of excuse as to why you are leaving the house all the time and not working anymore. For reference, she retired her business early and now doesn't work, and she's like going through a midlife crisis or something like that. Now she keeps referring to my wedding as her vision and what she sees for me. She then says to me later on, I don't want to hear that, oh mom, you were right crap. And I'm like, oh my God, this is really a conversation I'm having right now. These are actual words coming out of my mom's mouth. She is literally shaming my decision and not listening to what makes me happy. So I'm also partly in denial that this is even actually happening, but I'm also very heartbroken about it. She never says anything nice to me anymore and makes everything about her, even if she wasn't there or involved in the first place. So right now I don't know what to do. I'm thinking about buying the black dress. I mean, it is super affordable at like $200, which hey, that works for me. Then I'll go and entertain train her and try on all of her dresses just to reject them and be like, oh, look at this black one, and then get that one. So seriously, this entire situation is so annoying because right now I really just don't know what to do. Holy crap, your mom is literally trying to hijack your wedding. Like, this is honestly what it sounds like. And I just love it because this is so out of touch. Like, if you want to wear a black dress for your wedding, congratulations, you can do whatever you want. This really is your day and you can make it whatever you want. I mean, I've heard of people getting married in like t-shirts and jeans. Like, dude, this can be whatever you want to make it to be. And I think you've got the right attitude. You're like, okay, we're getting married on a farm, dude. Like, seriously, it doesn't have to be that crazy. And plus, you can customize it however you want. So if I was in your shoes, I would not let my mom take over this wedding. And with that, I say get the dress that you want. If you want to get a black dress and have like a death metal wedding, then dude, go for it. I think that sounds really cool and that would be a fantastic thing to see. Because if you bend to what your mom wants, I guarantee that you're going to regret this and really hate your life. Because she definitely does not sound like a nice person at all. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled Karen snaps at me after I correct her child when he started banging on my cash register, as she said I had no right to talk to him like that, even though she was doing nothing to make things right. Here's what happened. A few months ago, I was working as a cashier at a supermarket. It was a slow day, not many customers around, when I suddenly hear the screams of a child somewhere across the store. He looked about 5 or 6 years old, throwing a full-on temper tantrum. His mom was trying to calm him down by buying him whatever he wanted, but the more she gave him, the louder he screamed for more. Now, I was silently praying they wouldn't end up in my register, but of course, the universe said, nope, you're gonna take care of this. I then sighed as the mother and her demon child walked over to my checkout line. The boy was holding a box of crayons, and after scanning everything with my best fake smile I could possibly give, all that was left was the crayons themselves. The mom then turned to him and said, come on, sweetie, let the nice lady scan your crayons. Mommy will give them right back. I even tried to convince him too, but he just started screaming and crying even louder. The mom tried replacing the crayons with something else, but he threw it across the counter, almost hitting me, and started punching the register machine. Now, I'm responsible for everything that happens at my station. So I looked at him and I firmly said, hey, and that's it. All I said was hey to this kid. And you know what? He froze, he stopped screaming, stopped crying, and just stood there completely silent. But guess who wasn't happy? Yeah, that's right, it's the mom. She glared at me and said, don't talk to him like that, he is just a child. I really wanted to reply by saying, exactly, that's why you, the adult, should be showing him how to behave. But instead, I just bit my tongue and I finished the transaction. Afterwards, my coworkers were trying not to laugh and told me I'd probably be in trouble with the department manager. But when I told him what happened, he just said to me, don't worry about it. Next time, just call for me or one of the other supervisors to handle it. So at least someone had common sense that day because this entire scenario was so weird. Okay, if you're one of those parents out there who literally never disciplines your child and then gets upset when someone else tries to do it, you are a terrible parent. You're teaching this kid bad manners and they're absolutely being reinforced when you do nothing to stop it. I don't care how destructive they are, I don't care about any of that. It can all be fixed as long as you stay firm. And I'm absolutely willing to die on that hill, like I do not care. And no, I'm not talking about those kids who have some kind of like disorder or something like that. That's completely different. If there's things outside of their control, I completely understand. But if they are a healthy kid that absolutely is of sound mind and they still act like that and you encourage that by not disciplining them, then guess what? You're the problem here and I don't care what you have to say. So good for the original poster for absolutely shutting this kid down, but shame on this mom for being like, wow, he is just a child, don't talk to him like that, because that's obnoxious and she's only doing that kid a massive disservice. Am I the jerk for giving my mom her car back after I told her that I could no longer make payments on it? And despite the fact that this car is in her name, she's starting to freak out as she says she can't afford the payment and is now demanding that I do it instead, putting me in a really weird situation because right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. To start things out, I'm 19 years old and I'm 27 weeks pregnant, which means lately me and my partner, who's a 20-year-old male, have been discussing ways that we can cut back on costs. One of his biggest concerns was car payments, as I have been paying my mom $200 every month for my car ever since I was 16 years old. The deal was that if I was going to drive it, I would have to pay the car payment, but the car is in her name. Now the problem is that the car is not reliable at all. The transmission went out last year, it got replaced, and then it's gone out again. Not to mention the motor needs to be replaced and a lot of other things. We started doing the math and things would be a lot easier for us if we just had one car payment, namely his. Plus, his car would be safer for the baby when she is here. I tried talking to my mom about about giving her the car back, but she told me that that wasn't a possibility. When I asked why, she said it would royally screw her over. Well, it turns out that she still owes the bank about $9,000 on that car, even though she bought the car almost 4 years ago for $12,000, and she can't afford $200 a month. I told her that I couldn't either, and the deal was that I would pay for the car if I'm driving it. So since I'm not driving it, I'm not paying for it. Well, now she isn't even talking to me, which is even less than she already was before, and has started telling family members that I screwed her over, which I guess if what she's saying is true, I kind of did, but I don't think I'm wrong for that. I have to think about my future kid and making sure they're safe. Now, there are a lot of other issues that tie into this, but that's the main point of the story. So seriously, am I the jerk for giving the car back? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, if this isn't your mom's name and she was literally only using you for a car payment, then in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. Like, you didn't buy the car. It's not your car. You've only been using it as long as you've been paying it. And from the sounds of it, it kind of seems like she was screwing you over to an extent. Like, the car was breaking down all the time. It literally had a transmission break twice. And she's trying to sit there and be like, oh, come on, you're screwing me over. I can't afford to pay $200 a month. Well, it's like, I'm sorry, but I can't do that either. Plus, it's not my car, so I don't know what to tell you. So no, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk. I think she put herself in this situation by not managing her money properly and literally by giving you a crappy car, which in my opinion is not fair, especially considering that you're pregnant. Am I the jerk for asking my brother to pay my dental bill after his harmless prank literally broke my tooth in half? Because right now, even my own parents are siding with him, saying that I need to let it go and not be so money obsessed, which is really pissing me off and putting me in a situation where I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 24-year-old female and I was visiting my family last weekend, and my brother decided to pull a prank on me. He's always been the type who thinks he's hilarious, even when no one else does. Well, while I was drinking a water bottle, he snuck up behind me and smacked the bottom of it hard. So basically, the bottle hit my face. I then heard a crack immediately. My front tooth chipped pretty badly and it really hurt. Well, at this point, I started crying and my parents rushed over to me. My brother apologized at first, but then started laughing, saying it was just a joke and that I was being dramatic. I then had to go to an emergency dentist that same day, and the bill was around $850 because I needed bonding done. When I sent my brother the bill and asked him to pay it, since it was literally his fault, he got defensive and said, I didn't mean to break your tooth, it was an accident. You can't seriously expect me to pay that much for something you could have avoided if you weren't so sensitive. Well, to make matters worse, my parents are siding with him, saying that I should just let it go because he didn't mean it, and he feels bad enough. But he clearly doesn't feel that bad if he's refusing to pay. Well, now my family is saying that I'm money obsessed, and that I'm holding a grudge over a joke. But I told them if it were anyone else, they would agree with me, and I'm honestly considering going no contact for a while after this. So am I the jerk here trying to get him to pay my dental bill? Because right now I'm still really pissed off. Dude, if anybody did that to me, I would lose my mind. Seriously, you're breaking a tooth off in my mouth and you're gonna be like, oh, you're too sensitive. What's the big deal? I only assaulted you. Like, does this guy hear himself at all? This is not a case of you being too sensitive. This is literally a case of him breaking your tooth. That's all this comes down to. And he wants to sit there and be like, wow, you're overreacting. Not to mention your family taking his side for some stupid reason. Like, what's going on? You're not being money obsessed. You literally were assaulted. Like, this is a big difference, man. So no, he needs to pay that bill. You're definitely not the jerk for sending it his way, and the fact that anybody's taking his side, in my opinion, is absolutely crazy. Am I the jerk for not telling my mom my friend's name, as I knew that she was going to try and use this against me by judging my friends incorrectly? Because after I said no, my mom literally called me 50 times and is now giving me the silent treatment as a result of all of this, thus putting me in a situation where I am incredibly pissed off and very annoyed, because now I feel like I'm at a standstill and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 21-year-old female and I live on campus and have an agreement with my mom that I'll tell her where and when I'm going if I'm going out. A month ago, I told her I was going to hang out with a friend who's also 21. She kept prying for where I was going, how long I'd be out, and how many people would come with me, and how safe the area would be. Now, I willingly gave her the information so that I could just get to where I needed to be. That is, until she asked for my friend's name. I always hate that she assigns biases against my friends based on what race she thinks their name is. I've always blatantly refused to give out names and explained that I don't like when she makes assumptions of my friends. Well, I shut her down when she asked for my friend's name, and as a result, she called called me over 50 times. She said she needed the name for safety reasons in case I went missing, but I told her that didn't make any sense since I have my phone and she already knew where I was. I texted her that I was busy because I had arrived and I wanted to enjoy myself, and I said that I would call her later. Well, she ignored this and continued calling me, so I just blocked her. I did not call her back after the event because I was too angry that she disrespected my no, as well as my attempt to set a boundary. And you know what? She has been ignoring me ever since for the past month. I then came home yesterday for a medical appointment, and the silent treatment has become more obvious. She does not speak to me directly and asked my dad to text me instead, asking me things like, oh, if I'm hungry, and letting me know that she's left food on the table. She ignored my birthday a few days ago, but also left a birthday gift in my room. Otherwise, she's been ignoring my text messages, and I just continue to act normally despite her silence. I then overheard her calling my dad that she wants me to apologize first. I get that she worries, but this feels more like control than concern. I didn't feel comfortable giving her my friend's name, and I didn't like being called over 50 times after I said no. So am I the jerk here, or is my mom really the one at fault? Because right now, I just don't know what to do. Okay, seriously, I think you hit the nail on the head. She doesn't give a crap about where you're going. She just wants absolute control over your life and literally is doing it in the worst way possible. And you know what? Why does she need to know where you're going on campus? That is so dumb. I know if my mom acted like that, I'd be like, no, I'm not gonna be doing this. This is so dumb. I literally don't have time for this and I am an adult, so I'm gonna decline. Which, by the way, that's well within your right. It's completely normal for you to be like, no, I'm not agreeing to this. And the fact that she's judging the people based off of how their name sounds, like her trying to guess what race you're friends are based on their name, that is crazy, dude. I wouldn't give out names either. That is some super sketchy behavior that honestly I would absolutely shut down as well. So no, you're not the jerk. You didn't do anything wrong. I personally think your mom is being very stupid, and the fact that she's like, no, you apologize first, to me shows that she has absolutely zero remorse for this, and instead is just this emotionally immature person who can't own up to her own mistakes. Am I the jerk for asking my girlfriend's brother what kind of man he is after he intentionally ignored our phone calls when we were trying to bring up groceries from the car? Because right now my girlfriend is kind of pissed off at me and I'm not sure if I made a mistake here. Here's what's going on. So my girlfriend and I got into a huge argument because of something I said to her younger brother. And for the sake of the story, I'll call my girlfriend Laura and her younger brother Randall. For context, Randall lives with his sister, who I'll call Anna for the sake of the story. Anna had a big grocery haul today and her van recently kicked the bucket. So Laura and I offered to take her. We drove over to the store, helped with the shopping, and loaded everything into my car. On the drive back, Randall texted Anna asking if she could pick them up some takeout on him. Well, Anna agreed, and so we made an extra stop to go get their food. The plan was, when we got to their apartment building, Randall would come down to the lobby to help us bring up all the groceries and his takeout. And by the way, this was agreed upon when we went to get the takeout because the parking is a pain in the butt and it's a lot to carry alone. So we pull up, we text him, and then we call him. But we get no answer of any kind. We then call him again, but still, we get nothing. We then parked the car properly, which meant that Anna, Laura, and myself had to make multiple trips from the parking lot to the lobby and then up to the apartment lugging all the groceries and the takeout. Now, I'm the first one to get to the door with my hands full with a box and 2 bags. I'm able to knock and he unlocks the deadbolt without even opening the door, and this really pissed me off. So I opened the door for all of us and I set the box and bags down. I then asked him what happened and he just shrugged and said, "Oh, my phone was on silent, sorry." Now, this is the second time he's pulled this exact same garbage. The last time, I gave him a sarcastic response about it. I said something like, "Oh, how convenient that you couldn't hear the phone glued to your hand." And I said that when he gave me the same lame excuse as before. But you know what? This time I was fed up. I was tired from carrying everything, and I was annoyed for Anna and Laura who just accept this from him. I looked at him and I said, "Seriously, Randall, what kind of man sits on his butt while his sister and everyone else carries his responsibilities for him?" Well, when I said that, Randall didn't say anything in return and just left the room. But Laura immediately shot me a death glare. After we left the apartment and we were back in the car, she laid into me. She said I was out of line, that it wasn't my place to talk to her brother like that, and that my comment was toxic and emasculating. In fact, we argued the entire way home. I told her that she and her family coddle him way too much, and that he's never going to learn if no one holds him accountable. When we got home and the both of us cooled down just a little bit, I explained my side more calmly. I said that what he did was deeply disrespectful to her, to Anna who houses him, and to me. He knew we would end up doing the work if he ignored his phone, and he made that choice because he's lazy and there are never any consequences. And Laura was able to see my point of view in this one, or at least that's what she tells me. But I've really started to think about this, and I'm kind of wondering if I'm the jerk here. Was I out of line for saying what I said? Because right now I'm honestly still very frustrated and I just don't know what to do. Dude, there's no way in the world I would ever be okay with this kind of behavior. Like seriously, Randall absolutely did this on purpose. He skated by responsibility once again by ignoring it and being like,
Oh yeah, sorry, my phone was on silent, my bad.
but it's like, dude, you're lying. You just didn't want to do it, and so you said, oh, I'm gonna put my phone away and just wait for them to come up. And honestly, if this really is some kind of theme and like a common thing that happens all the time, then yeah, calling it out seems like the only thing you can do. Like, this is not a child we're talking about. This is a 22-year-old man. This is someone who absolutely should know better and should at least try to be a little bit more responsible. So no, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk at all, and I think you did the right thing here. Today, I need to confess that I am kind of the reason that my coworker got fired, as a string of events happened in a way that I never expected, making me feel absolutely horrible as a result. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this was like 3 years ago. I had become acquainted with a new hire who I will call Ken for the sake of the story. He was in his mid-30s, he was ex-military, and overall he was a good worker. He had started at the company to kind of get on his feet from what I could tell, and he struggled a bit financially. He even asked me for money sometimes, and me, being a bleeding heart softie, I would sometimes help him out when I could. Now, I had another coworker who I'll call Sue, who I had also gotten close to, and it's important to note that she and Ken did not get along at all. From my understanding, Sue just didn't really have the patience to train him when he had first started at the job, and at one point made a comment that resulted in a verbal exchange between the two, and ever since then, they steer clear of each other. So, one day Sue comes up to me and confides that she's secretly dating one of the supervisors, and I'm genuinely just so happy for her. She was in the process of getting out of a toxic marriage, and I was excited about the development. Ken and I were then scheduled to work together later that day, and me, feeling a bit gossipy, decided to tell him all about it. Now, I figured that since he was a guy, he wouldn't really care about the information, but holy crap, I was completely wrong, because the next thing I know, he made some snarky remark alluding to the relationship in front of other employees and the supervisor Sue was seeing. The next thing I know, Sue is coming up to me having a breakdown, because human resources was now getting involved. She then asked if I had told anybody, and I said no, because I really had not meant for things to escalate like they did. And you know what? Luckily she believed me, saying that she told a few other people and maybe someone else overheard. Well, by the next day, Ken was escorted out by security and fired for harassment or something like that. And I truly felt horrible. I mean, I still do. But with all things considered, I never told Sue the truth, and honestly, at this point, I never plan to. Okay, this is a hard lesson for pretty much everybody involved, not just the original poster, but also Sue. First things first, if you really are dating someone in the office, it's probably better to like keep things under wraps for a while, especially if you want to enjoy your job. Because holy crap, even if you're good friends with someone, chances are they're gonna tell someone else about this and then it's gonna spread like the plague. So I just don't understand why Sue went to this person, was like, oh yeah, I'm dating a supervisor, don't say anything to anybody, and then really thought that they were just gonna keep that quiet. Like seriously, that's so dumb. Why say anything in the first place? Because Sue has gotta know that's gonna look really weird, right? Because I don't know about you, but anybody who's dating some kind of like upper management is not viewed very favorably in the eyes of pretty much everybody below them. But it's also really funny to me that Sue's like, did you say anything? I don't know what happened. Because if I was the original poster, I absolutely would lie as well. I would be like, nope, I don't know, I didn't say anything, it's not me. And I would happily whistle past that graveyard, like, good lord. So yeah, this is just one big mess up after another, and honestly, this could have been avoided if Sue just literally kept her mouth shut. Because if she had said nothing, then nothing would have happened. Ken would have kept his job, Sue would have been happy, and everything would have been fine. But instead, she wanted to tell someone to like brag about it, I guess, and that caused a domino effect that I'm sure nobody was expecting. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.